Chapter 8:23. He hadn't seen Wang Ju since the Heaven King ranking battle. He should be cultivating in seclusion, but now he had appeared. What's wrong? You're looking for a beating after being defeated? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Lu Ming, I lost in the Battle of the Kings, but what's the big deal about losing in the King Realm? The Sea of Soul Realm is where the geniuses compete. Defeating you now is as easy as flipping my hand. Wang Ju's body emitted a blazing aura. On the other side, the people from the Heavenly Corpse sect were watching with interest. They didn't expect the people from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace to have internal strife. They were naturally happy to see it happen. Long Qianli frowned slightly. He naturally recognized Lu Ming, but he had already helped Lu Ming and the others once. He couldn't interfere with Lu Ming's private matters every time. After all, the other party was an ancient family. Moreover, his gaze was fixed on Wang Haoxian, who was behind Lu Ming. He was very surprised. Why would Wang Haoxian stand behind Lu Ming? If Wang Haoxian attacked, he wasn't confident. Wang Ju, why don't you let me deal with this person? Luan Fengyin looked at Wang Ju. All right. Wang Ju nodded. It would be best if Luan Fengyin could deal with Lu Ming. Whoosh! Just then, a figure flashed and blocked in front of Lu Ming. If you want to touch Lu Ming, you'll have to get through me first. Wang Haoxian said coldly. Wang Haoxian, what are you doing? Luan Fengyin's expression changed drastically. He naturally saw Wang Haoxian just now, and he was also curious. Why would Wang Haoxian come with Lu Ming and the others? He thought that it was on the way. If you want to touch Lu Ming, you'll have to defeat me first. Wang Haoxian said coldly. This made Luan Fengyin's expression turn even uglier. Wang Haoxian was a god-grade genius who had awakened a god-grade bloodline. How could he be a match for him? Wang Haoxian, why are you doing this? Wang Ju asked with a bewildered gaze. He was from the same clan as Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian was an incomparably arrogant person. His talent was extremely high, and he was completely focused on cultivation. He had never treated others well, especially men. Apart from her brother Wang Haoyin, she had almost no friends. Now, she was actually standing in front of Lu Ming, helping Lu Ming block the enemy. This was somewhat inconceivable. Not only him, but the others were also in disbelief. Many people who didn't know Lu Ming were guessing who Lu Ming was to be able to make the god-level genius Wang Haoxian act like this. I'll spare you today for the sake of Wang Haoxian. Luan Fengyin said coldly. Then she turned around to leave. Did I say you could leave? Even if you're not looking for me, I'm looking for you. Lu Ming's voice rang out. He took a step forward and said, Wang Haoxian, there's no need for you to interfere. I'll deal with it myself. Chaos Wind and Cloud stopped and glanced at Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian took 2 steps back, as if he was very obedient to Lu Ming and had no intention of interfering. This made many people feel surprised again. Chaos Wind and Cloud also frowned and said, Lu Ming, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Then a powerful aura rose from his body. He was at the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. Obviously, Chaos Wind and Cloud had made great progress in the past 6 months and had advanced to a higher level. A big bow appeared in his hand, and his aura became sharp. Swish! He stepped back and knocked an arrow. An arrow instantly traversed the space and shot toward Lu Ming. It was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. Many people were secretly shocked. Chaos Wind and Cloud was indeed a quasi-genius on the list of top 1,000 talents. His combat strength was extremely powerful. Not many people at the same level could dodge this arrow. Xian Yanqing, Fatty, and the others didn't move at all, as if they weren't worried at all. Lu Ming also didn't move and let the arrow hit him. It was as if Lu Ming didn't react at all. Lu Ming was going to be killed. This thought flashed through many people's minds. The arrow pierced through the air and shot toward Lu Ming's forehead in an instant. At this moment, Lu Ming finally moved. He stretched out a hand. Few people could see when he stretched out his hand, and he caught the arrow. The arrow stopped steadily in front of Lu Ming's forehead, less than an inch away from Lu Ming's forehead. Almost everyone widened their eyes in shock. Lu Ming actually caught the arrow with his bare hand. This arrow was not shot by an ordinary person, but by Chaos Wind and Cloud, who had reached the peak of the 5th tier of the spiritual sea realm. It was absolutely terrifying and could kill an ordinary expert at the 7th tier of the spiritual sea realm. But Lu Ming casually caught it in his hand. This kind of visual impact was seriously too great, making people's minds go into a trance. Chaos Wind and Cloud, I haven't seen you for half a year, and you haven't improved at all. Lu Ming smiled slightly. His fingers exerted force, and the arrow in his hand shattered. Chaos Wind and Cloud's pupils shrank rapidly. She retreated quickly, and at the same time, the big bow in her hand drew again. Xiao! Xiao! The rapid arrow was a series of 9 arrows, and they formed a straight line. The arrows at the back collided with the arrows at the front, causing the arrows at the front to explosively increase in speed. As for the first arrow, its speed increased to a terrifying degree. However, Lu Ming took a step forward and struck out with his palm. The arrow was shattered into pieces by the impact. Chaos Wind and Cloud was shocked and retreated quickly. Lu Ming took a few steps and appeared in front of Chaos Wind and Cloud in a flash. Chaos Wind and Cloud was terrified. She exploded with all her strength, and a battle blade appeared in her hand, slashing at Lu Ming. Lu Ming struck out with a palm strike, and the battle blade shattered. Lu Ming clawed at Chaos Wind and Cloud's throat. Chaos Wind and Cloud's genuine was completely sealed, and she struggled in Lu Ming's hand. Everyone was shocked. Chaos Wind and Cloud was a quasi-prodigy and was extremely powerful. But in front of Lu Ming, she was like a chicken, unable to withstand a single blow. All of her attacks were easily broken and broken by Lu Ming. Those who knew about the battle at 100 Supremes Mountain were even more shocked. At that time, Lu Ming was completely suppressed by Chaos Wind and Cloud. But now, only half a year had passed, and Lu Ming's battle prowess had reached a terrifying level, completely crushing Chaos Wind and Cloud. It was truly terrifying. Let him go! Behind Chaos Wind and Cloud, 2 young men shouted and attacked Lu Ming at the same time. Pum! Lu Ming kicked out, and the power of 9 dragons' sky stomping steps was contained within. The 2 young men were at the 6th layer of spiritual sea realm, but they weren't prodigies and were far weaker than Lu Ming. They both spat out mouthfuls of blood and retreated. Lu Ming's finger appeared in a ray of light, and he struck out. Pucci! Blood splattered everywhere, and one of Chaos Wind and Cloud's arms flew out and was cut off by Lu Ming. Chaos Wind and Cloud let out a low roar, and her body struggled with all her might. Lu Ming swung, and Chaos Wind and Cloud was sent flying. This arm, I'll take it as paying you back for that sneak attack. If you can't accept it, you can come and fight me again. Lu Ming said coldly. Chaos Wind and Cloud roared, and used her martial arts to stop the bleeding. She looked at Lu Ming with hatred and shock. On the other side, Wang Ju's pupils contracted rapidly, and his heart was in turmoil. Wang Ju's battle prowess was powerful, and his talent was shocking. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to enter the Heaven King ranking. Chapter 824. But now he realized that Lu Ming's cultivation was unfathomable, and his battle prowess was even more terrifying. Even Wan Fengyin was crushed by Lu Ming. This made him extremely shocked. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at him. Now, do you still want to fight? A calm voice sounded. Everyone's eyes gathered on Wang Ju. Still want to fight? There seemed to be no need to answer this question. Wan Fengyin was easily crushed. If he fought, he would be crushed even more miserably. Wang Ju's face turned green and then white. Finally, he gritted his teeth and turned into a beam of light, leaving the place without a fight. No one thought that Wang Ju was cowardly. Many even agreed with Wang Ju's decision. Facing an unbeatable opponent, perhaps retreating was the wisest choice. Lu Ming smiled faintly and returned to Xia Nianqing's side. In front of the stone platform, Long Qianli looked at Lu Ming. His eyes flashed. Now he couldn't see through Lu Ming, which made him extremely shocked. He still remembered that half a year ago, Lu Ming and the others still had to rely on his reputation to get out of the 100 Supremes mountain. But now, in just half a year, Lu Ming already gave Long Qianli an unfathomable feeling. Interesting. On the stone platform, Blood, Sword 19 sneered. Then he looked around again and said, since no one in the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier wants to fight, then the 5th layer will fight. Xuemeng, you go. Yes. Beside Blood, Sword 19, a young man nodded and stepped out, appearing in the center of the stone platform. His aura bloomed. Peak of the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, who wants to fight? Xuemeng's face was slightly pale, but his eyes were as red as blood. Around the stone platform it was silent. This time, the Heavenly Corpse sect had sent out top experts of all levels. Their battle prowess was almost invincible. This Xuemeng was obviously such a figure. Without confidence, going up would only be embarrassing. I'll go. After a while, a young man in a red robe flew onto the fighting ring. Everyone recognized that this person was a Wang family half-deity level Heaven's Pride. His strength extremely powerful. Boom! The Wang clan's heavens favorite shouted and dashed towards the bloody light. Clang! The sound of swords filled the air as the blood-red sword qi increased in intensity. Blood qi exuded from Xuemeng's body as he engaged in a fierce battle with the Wang clan's heaven's favorite. The Heavenly Corpse sect's blood intent is extremely powerful. The Wang family is no match for them. Lu Ming shook his head. Sure enough, after a dozen or so moves, the Wang clan's prodigy was no match and was at a disadvantage. After a few more moves, he was beaten until he spat out large mouthfuls of blood and was defeated. Who else wants to fight? Xuemeng continued to challenge Lin Fan with disdain in his eyes. Damn it, I'll fight you. A tall and sturdy young man roared and rushed onto the stone platform. However, this young man was even weaker than the geniuses of the Wang clan. In less than 10 moves, he was defeated. For a moment, no one went up to fight. It's a pity that Luan Fengyin was defeated. Originally, Luan Fengyin was an important battle force at the 5th level of the spiritual Sea Realm. He might be the strongest at the 5th level of the spiritual Sea Realm and might be able to fight against Lin Fan. Now that Luan Fengyin's arm is broken, no one at the 5th level of the spiritual Sea Realm can fight. Whispers of discussion could be heard all around. Luan Fengyin is nothing. Let me teach him how to behave. After the fatty heard this, he was instantly displeased. He grinned, carried his battle axe, and stepped onto the stone platform. Lu Ming and the others smiled, not worried about the fatty. In a battle of the same level, the fatty would not lose unless he encountered a prodigy who had awakened a divine bloodline. Brat, you're very arrogant. You want me to serve you? The fatty held the battle axe in one hand and spun it a few times in the air. The battle axe was like a door plank, bringing with it a gust of wind. He looked at Xuemeng provocatively, looking like a cocky expert. Can this fatty do it? Some people expressed their doubts. He should be able to, right? Back at the 100 Supremes mountain, this fatty and Lu Ming fought against the experts of the Luan family and Jiang family together. The battle strength they displayed was also extremely powerful. Some people replied. Some people looked at the fatty with hope, hoping that he could win this round. Fight! Xuemeng was very straightforward. The blood-red sword qi soared into the sky and slashed towards the fatty. Nest, I haven't even called for the fight to start, and you've already attacked. You're cheating. The fatty shouted and spun the battle axe in his hand, blocking in front of him. Dang! Shuemang's sword chi pierced the fatty's battle axe, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. How dare you sneak attack me? Take this! The fatty's battle axe shook, and Shuemang felt a strong force. His expression changed, and he could not help but retreat. Once he retreated, what welcomed him was the fatty's storm-like attacks. The battle axe was like a whirlwind, continuously slashing towards Shuemang. Every strike seemed to be able to split the sky. Shuemang's expression changed drastically. He tried his best to block, but every time he blocked a strike, he would take a step back. After 10 consecutive strikes, Shuemang spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He won. The fatty had won with an overwhelming momentum. Many people did not even have time to react. Haha, you're so weak. The fatty laughed loudly. Great. Fatty, you're amazing. Many people laughed, revealing a carefree expression. They had finally won a match. They had lost too many matches in the past 2 days. Because they were caught off guard by the Heavenly Corpse sect, they had lost many matches in a row. Now they had finally won a match. Since this fatty is standing next to Lu Ming, he naturally won't be bad. Birds of a feather flock together. Those who can walk together are most likely geniuses of the same level. Indeed, the surrounding discussions made the fatty feel even more comfortable. Haha, Heavenly Corpse sect. Do you have any stronger people? Send them out quickly. I'll take care of them one by one. The battle axe in the fatty's hand swayed back and forth, causing a strong wind to howl. Humph! Blood, Sword 19, snorted coldly. This time, among the prodigies in the 5th level of the Spirit Sea Realm that he had brought, Shuemang was the strongest. He had thought that by catching the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace off guard, they would be able to win consecutively and dampen the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace's morale. However, he had not expected a fatty to appear out of nowhere. Have you awakened a god-tier bloodline? Blood, Sword 19 asked coldly. If the fatty was a god-tier prodigy who had awakened a god-tier bloodline, then even if he won, there would be no glory. Nonsense. If I had awakened a god-tier bloodline, why would I need to use so many moves to defeat him? One move would be enough. The fatty curled his lips. All right, you win this match. Blood, Sword 19 said. He then looked at Long Chenli and said, Long Chenli, why don't we have a battle between god-tier prodigies? As soon as these words came out, everyone's hearts trembled and their eyes lit up. The main event was coming. It was finally the battle between the god-tier prodigies. Awakening a divine grade bloodline and not awakening a divine grade bloodline were two completely different concepts. Most of the prodigies had only awakened a king-tier bloodline, and many of them were only at the 9th level of the king tier. Chapter 8:25. The last time the list of top 1,000 talents was ranked, only the top 300 had awakened the divine bloodline. 300, including the Talisman Puppet Sect, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the 3 hegemons of the 3 great treasure realms. There were hundreds of regions, but such a large territory only had 300 people. Even if there were some rising stars, there would not be too many of them. Therefore, under normal circumstances, it was rare to see a duel between divine-level talents. Clashes between god-grade geniuses would only occur before the Battle of Providence. As time passed and the Battle of Providence drew closer, the number of clashes between god-grade geniuses would definitely increase and become more intense. Haha. Blood, Sword 19, are you finally going to fight? I'll keep you company. Long Chenli laughed and stepped out, landing on the stone platform. Long Chenli, you've misunderstood. I'm not going to fight, but one of my junior brothers. Guiyu, go ahead. Blood, Sword 19 smiled. Swish! As soon as Blood Sword 19 finished speaking, a figure flashed and appeared in front of Long Chenli. So fast! Many people were shocked. They did not see when Guiyu appeared in front of Long Chenli. It was as if he had been standing there the whole time. Long Chenli frowned and said, "You're Guiyu?" "That's right," Guiyu said calmly. He looked very young, no more than 25 years old. Many people's eyes flashed because the name Guiyu was unfamiliar. He was not on the list of top 1,000 talents at all. He should be a rising talent. "Let's fight." Long Chenli was not careless at all. A strong aura emanated from his body, and a long black spear appeared in his hand. He was at the peak of the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. Like Wang Haoxian, Long Chenli's cultivation had also reached the peak of the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. He stared at Guiyu with bright eyes. Since Guiyu dared to fight with him, he must be a divine level talent. Long Chenli did not dare to underestimate him. To his surprise, Guiyu shook his head and said, "You're no match for me." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd went into an uproar. "This guy is so arrogant. He didn't even fight and said that Long Chenli is no match for him. He's too narcissistic." That's right. Who is Long Chenli? A god-tier genius. How dare he boast so shamelessly? Damn it. Brother Long, teach him a good lesson. Some people from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace roared in anger, feeling extremely indignant. "Come on, we haven't fought yet. You're too full of yourself." Long Chenli's eyes also revealed a trace of anger. To think that he would be looked down on even before the battle had even started. As a genius, it was only natural for him to feel displeased. Clang! A scimitar appeared in Guiyu's hand as she said, "I already said that you're not my opponent. If you at her, then it'll be a little more interesting." Then he pointed his scimitar at Wang Haoxian. "Wang Haoxian, you're also a god-tier genius. Come at me together. You and Long Chenli together. I'm interested in fighting," Guiyu said faintly. His tone was not loud, but it revealed his strong confidence. Wang Haoxian frowned, and his eyes revealed a trace of sternness. Since he was being challenged in public, there was no reason for him not to fight. She looked at Lu Ming. If she wanted to fight, she had to get Lu Ming's approval. "If you want to fight, then go ahead." Lu Ming smiled slightly. This made many people's jaws drop. If Wang Haoxian wanted to fight, she had to get Lu Ming's approval? Could it be that Wang Haoxian had been conquered by Lu Ming and had become Lu Ming's woman? Many people could not help but have this thought. They looked at Lu Ming with a hint of jealousy and envy. Many people even showed a look of admiration. Even a woman like Wang Haoxian could be conquered. It was admirable. Humph! Xian Yanqing suddenly snorted in displeasure, and his lips curled up. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose, pretending not to see it. Wang Haoxian nodded, took a step forward, and appeared on the stone platform. "Long Chenli, since he wants to challenge me, then let's fight," Wang Haoxian said coldly. Her body exuded a terrifying heat, and purple flames burst out. "Well, since this person is so confident, I'm afraid he has some ability. Be careful." Long Chenli sent a message to Wang Haoxian, and the aura on his body became stronger. He pointed his long spear at Guiyu and said, "Make your move." Hee, interesting. Guiyu sneered, and a black light burst out from his body. In the black light, there were countless people screaming, emitting a horrifying aura. "Kill!" Guiyu shouted, and his body disappeared in a flash. The next moment, a cold light slashed at Long Chenli's throat. Without a doubt, Guiyu's cultivation was also at the peak of the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. Long Chenli's long spear shook, and instantly whipped forward, clashing with the blade light. With a dang, the blade light was repelled, but in the next moment, the blade light appeared at Wang Haoxian's throat again. Wang Haoxian punched out continuously, and the blazing fist light burned everything. Boom! The blade light was defeated, and a figure appeared in front in a flash. It was Guiyu. You have some skills. Now let's get to the main topic. As soon as Guiyu's voice faded, endless black qi filled the air. In the black qi, there were bursts of ghostly cries and wolf howls. On the stone platform, many people's faces turned pale, and they spat out blood. They were horrified, and they quickly retreated, roaring, "This is the evil ghost intent domain. Don't get too close." Many people quickly retreated, and they only dared to stop when they were far away. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a Zhenyuan wall appeared in front of him, blocking the evil ghost intent domain. The evil ghost intent domain was extremely strange. Through the ghostly cries and howls, it could affect people's souls and minds. It was a type of intent domain that was similar to sound waves. Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian's expression became serious, and they both burst out their intent domain to resist. Kill! At the same time, the two of them attacked at the same time. Violent attacks were launched at Guiyu. Ghost Moonblade Art. Guiyu whispered. His body trembled, and he disappeared again. In the next moment, on the stone platform, countless blade lights suddenly flashed, and they continuously slashed at Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. Each blade light was extremely powerful, and they were extremely fast. Moreover, the angles were extremely tricky, and no one knew where they would come from. It was as if blade light could come from any corner of the stone platform. What a strange cultivation technique! Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he stared at the stone platform. Guiyu's attack naturally could not escape his eyes. He found that Guiyu's body seemed to have merged with the evil ghost intent domain. Wherever the evil ghost intent domain spread, his body could reach in an instant. It was fast and ruthless and extremely strange. In order to break this kind of attack, one could only use a strong method to break the evil ghost intent domain. Obviously, Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian had also thought of this. With a dragon roar, a three-headed demon dragon appeared above Long Qianli's head, and a golden chakra was extremely dazzling. Chapter 8:26. In the next moment, Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian used their bloodline fusion and turned into a three-headed dragon and a purple firebird. Roar! The three heads of the three-headed dragon roared, and its dragon claws tore forward as if it could tear the world in half. As for the violet flame bird, it cried out and spat out a violet flame that burned everything in its path. Boom! The space shook and countless blade lights exploded. The evil ghost intent was defeated, and Guiyu's body appeared as he floated back. Hee, you've used all your trump cards. Then come. As he sneered, a moon appeared above Guiyu's head. However, this moon was extremely strange. It was actually black, and there were ghostly shadows flickering on it. However, this was not the most shocking thing. What was shocking was that there were 2 golden chakras on the black moon that emitted dazzling golden light. 2 golden chakras, a rank 2 divine realm bloodline. Guiyu actually had a rank 2 divine realm bloodline. No wonder he was so arrogant. Shwa! Guiyu's body flashed, and his body merged with the black moon. Wang! The moon shook, and an endless amount of black light was emitted. Every ray of black light seemed to be a blade light that spread towards Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. A dragon roar sounded, and the 3 heads of the three-headed dragon spat out attacks of 3 different attributes. There were flames and lightning that spread forward. The purple firebird flapped its wings, and flames spread out. It was as if space was going to be burned through. Boom! Boom! In the sky, there was a violent roar. The stone stage below was instantly reduced to ashes. In the previous battle, everyone had intentionally controlled their energy to prevent the stone stage from being destroyed. However, they could no longer control it now. The surrounding people retreated once again. Only Lu Ming, Blood Sword 19, and a few others remained still. Suppress! A cold shout came from the pitch-black moon. Everyone saw that the pitch-black moon was shining with a black light. It was like a ghostly moon falling towards Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. Boom! With an intense explosion, the three-headed dragon and purple firebird were sent flying far away. They then rapidly shrank and turned back into Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian's true bodies. The two staggered back with pale faces and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Defeated. The two of them were defeated by Guiyu. He kill. The black moon laughed coldly and continued to press down on Wang Haoxian and Long Qianli, emitting terrifying fluctuations. Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian had both been defeated. Yet Guiyu was still attacking. Was she trying to kill them? Despicable. Shameless. Stop. They've all lost. Around them many people roared. However, the pitch-black moon did not seem to have any intention of stopping. It continued to bombard them. Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian roared angrily and attacked. However, the two of them were already injured and had reverted to their true forms. Their strength was also somewhat weaker, so how could they block the attack? Immediately, the two of them were sent flying, drawing out two deep craters on the ground. Their faces paled as they coughed out another mouthful of blood. However, the pitch-black moon continued to press down. Despicable! How dare you attack me? Angry roars could be heard from the surroundings. Blood Sword 19 sneered. The pitch-black moon emitted a boundless might as it continued to press down. However, right at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared under the pitch-black moon. A palm strike was sent towards the pitch-black moon. Boom! The space seemed to be split apart, emitting a loud, rumbling sound. The pitch-black moon shook violently and was then sent flying into the sky by a terrifying force. This scene fell into the eyes of the crowd as if a person was striking the moon. A palm strike sent the moon flying. Everyone looked at the figure in shock. It's him! Lu Ming! A name appeared in everyone's mind. This figure was Lu Ming. Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian had already been defeated, but Guiyu was still attacking. Therefore, Lu Ming stepped in to stop her. It's you! How dare you stop me? I'll kill you too! An angry roar came from the pitch-black moon. The black light shone brightly, and those lights were like blades. However, Lu Ming stretched out his palm, and those blades were all shattered. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a step forward, approaching the moon, and struck out with his palm. Bang! The pitch-black moon was like a rubber ball that was sent flying into the sky by Lu Ming's palm strike. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a step forward, his body like a stream of light, instantly rushed into the sky and appeared above the black moon. A terrifying, devouring power burst out from his left hand, enveloping the pitch-black moon and causing it to shake violently. What's going on? My bloodline! The pitch-black moon let out a scream of horror. Bang! In the next moment, Lu Ming struck the pitch-black moon with his palm. The pitch-black moon instantly burst like a black balloon. Guiyu's figure emerged and fell towards the ground at an extremely fast speed. Ta! Lu Ming took a few steps forward, his body like a meteor, falling at an extremely fast speed. Violent energy blasted on Guiyu's body. Boom! Guiyu's body heavily hit the ground. Suddenly, the earth shook, gravel splashed, and smoke filled the air. How is it? Everyone's eyes stared at the place where the smoke and dust filled the air. When the smoke and dust cleared, everyone saw a huge pit that was a few hundred meters wide and dozens of meters deep on the ground. Lu Ming's body stood straight in the middle of the pit. One of his feet was stepping on Guiyu's face. Guiyu was lying in the pit like a dead fish, his mouth was constantly vomiting blood, and his body was twitching nonstop. Guiyu had completely fainted. His body twitching was just an instinctive reaction. The scene suddenly quieted down, so quiet that only the sound of people gasping could be heard. Guiyu, who was incomparably arrogant and had defeated Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian, was now being stepped on by Lu Ming like a dead fish. It was a tragic sight. From the beginning to the end, less than a minute had passed. The impact on everyone was too strong. Crushing, this was a complete crushing. In the next moment, the scene erupted into loud cheers. Haha, good hit, good step. This is too good. Wasn't this Guiyu very arrogant? A new rising prodigy, who wanted to step on the older generation's prodigies, is now a dead fish. Dare to be arrogant in Nine Dragon City. Don't you know how to write the word death? Many people laughed heartily as they expressed their happy thoughts. Long Qianli looked at Lu Ming with shock. He had just fought with Guiyu and knew how terrifying Guiyu was. He and Wang Haoxian were still crushed, but Guiyu was easily defeated by Lu Ming. Lu Ming had not even activated his bloodline, and had easily defeated Guiyu in his normal state. What was even more terrifying was that Lu Ming's cultivation was only in the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm. He did not crush Guiyu with his profound cultivation, but with pure battle strength. Long Qianli smiled bitterly. It had only been half a year. Half a year ago, he did not put Lu Ming in his eyes. The reason why he brought them out of 100 Supremes Mountain was because of Lu Ming and the others' righteous behavior, as well as Yuan Tingting's sake. Chapter 8:27. Lu Ming was very calm. There was nothing to be proud of. He wasn't afraid of anyone at the same level. Although Guiyu's bloodline was at the 2nd level of the divine realm, his bloodline martial technique couldn't be at the upper, grade demigod level like his. Guiyu's martial technique was only at the lower grade demigod level. Even if Guiyu's martial technique was also at the divine realm, he was still crushed by Lu Ming at the same level. Lu Ming didn't even use his dragon power or bloodline fusion to defeat Guiyu. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at Blood, Sword 19. Do you still want to fight? Lu Ming stepped on Guiyu and asked Blood, Sword 19. Suddenly, everyone looked at Blood, Sword 19. Lu Ming's intention was clear. He was challenging Blood, Sword 19. Then, would Blood, Sword 19 dare to accept the challenge? Blood, Sword 19's face turned ugly. His cultivation was at the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm, the same as Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. His bloodline was also at the 1st level of the divine realm. His battle power was similar to Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. Guiyu was crushed. If he went up, wouldn't he be asking for humiliation? Don't think you're so great just because you defeated Guiyu. There are many divine realm geniuses at the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm who are stronger than Guiyu. They just didn't come today. Do you dare to go to the gathering half a month later? Blood, Sword 19 said coldly. Looks like you don't dare to fight. If you don't dare to fight, just say so. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Get lost. Lu Ming kicked Guiyu, who was like a dead fish, towards Blood, Sword 19. A Heavenly Corpse sect disciple walked out and caught Guiyu's body. Let's go! Blood, Sword 19 shouted. Then the group of Heavenly Corpse sect disciples ran away. Around them, many people looked at Lu Ming with awe, crushing Guiyu and forcing Blood, Sword 19 to retreat. What kind of power was that? Especially Luan Fengyun and the disciples of the Luan family. They were terrified. Luan Fengyun stared blankly at Lu Ming. He still couldn't believe it. Half a year ago, Lu Ming had been suppressed by him and could only resist with the help of a raise. But half a year later, Lu Ming could easily crush those immortal realm prodigies, let alone him. God-tier bloodline. He must have awakened his God-tier bloodline in the blood pool with the token. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to be so powerful. Thoughts flashed through Luan Fengyun's mind, and then she quietly left with a few young men from the Long clan. "Brother Lu, thank you." Long, Qianli stepped forward and looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. "Brother Long, you're too polite." Lu Ming smiled. "Brother Lu, you've truly shocked me. In just half a year, you've actually reached such a level. I'm ashamed." Long Qianli sighed. The fact that Lu Ming could progress so quickly showed that Lu Ming's potential was much greater than his. His future was unpredictable, just like those who ranked at the top of the list of top 1,000 talents, especially those who ranked in the top 20 or even the top 10. They were all unpredictable geniuses. "I'm just lucky." Lu Ming smiled faintly. He brushed it off casually and did not talk about this topic. Long Qianli didn't say much and said, "Brother Lu, in half a month's time, there will be an exchange meeting under the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron in the first dragon vein. At that time, apart from the top 100 geniuses of the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace and the Heavenly Corpse Sect, most of the geniuses will participate. Even those powerful descendants of the Sky Demon Valley will participate. With Brother Lu's combat strength, you will be a great help to our side at that time." "Aren't the top 100 prodigies going to participate? And the Talisman Puppet Sect?" Lu Ming asked curiously. The Talisman Puppet Sect has been in decline for the past few thousand years. Although it's still one of the 4 overlords in the Eastern Wilderness, it can't be compared to the other 3. In the past few hundred years, it's been very low-key and usually doesn't send anyone to participate. It's only during the Battle of Providence that they send their prodigies. Long Qianli nodded and explained. The top 100 prodigies on the list of top 1,000 talents are the key to the Battle of Providence, so they won't reveal themselves easily. Moreover, they're all training and cultivating in secret and dangerous places. They won't appear before the Battle of Providence. "Oh." Lu Ming nodded. "Brother Lu, I'll take my leave then," Long Qianli said. Then he looked at Wan Tingting and said, "Tingting, are you going to join the Imperial Sky Imperial Guards with me, or keep your friends company?" "Brother Long, you go ahead. I'll stay with Xian, Lu Ming, and the rest." Wan Tingting smiled. "All right." Long Qianli nodded. Then he cupped his fists at Lu Ming and the rest and left. "Lu Ming, you're so powerful. You're much more powerful than you were half a year ago." Xiao Xian flew in front of Lu Ming, her big eyes blinking as she looked at Lu Ming. Her face was full of admiration and worship. "Ahem." Lu Ming coughed a few times and touched his nose. He was a little embarrassed by Xiao Xian's gaze. "Humph, pervert, let's go." Xian Yinqing walked over and snorted. She took Lu Ming's arm and pulled him forward. "Hee, Xian Yinqing is jealous." Xiao Xian's voice came from behind. "Of course. Xian, you're too naughty. You didn't see if Yinqing was here." Wan Tingting's soft voice came. "Tingting, come, I'll hold your arm," Fatty said. "Go away, go away." Wan Tingting's voice came, followed by Xiao Xian's bell-like laughter and Fatty's sigh. Wang Haoxian looked at Lu Ming and the rest with a complicated gaze. Then she followed. The group headed towards the Sea Cloud Sect. Next, the group went on a scenic tour and occasionally stopped to cultivate. They were all young people. After not seeing each other for half a year, they had a lot of common topics to talk about and got along well. Even Xie Nianqing became more talkative. During this period, Lu Ming's spirit was not too tense. It was rare for him to relax. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. There were only 3 days left before the exchange between the Sky Prides of Sky Demon Valley, Sky Corp Sect, and Sky Corp Sect. "Lu Ming, are you going to the exchange?" Wan Tingting asked. "Of course I'm going. The Sky Prides of the 3 Overlord forces will gather. It's such a rare event that I can't miss it. Besides, I also want to see the powerful descendants of Sky Demon Valley." Lu Ming said, "Sky Demon Valley could be said to be the oldest force in Eastern Wilderness. It had existed since ancient times and was much older than Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and Talisman Puppet Sect. Sky Demon Valley was completely composed of demonic beasts. There were countless powerful demonic beasts and countless descendants with divine beast bloodlines. They were extremely powerful. Some people said that Sky Demon Valley was the strongest force in Eastern Wilderness. It was even stronger than Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Besides, in every generation, Sky Demon Valley would give birth to many descendants with divine beast bloodlines. These descendants were undoubtedly the sky prides of the demonic beasts. Their combat strength was extremely terrifying. That's great. Let's set off together. If you arrive early, you can rest there. Wan Tingting said. Tingting, can I go too? Qiao Xian blinked her big eyes. Among them, Qiao Xian was much weaker and could not be considered a sky pride. Chapter 828. Let's go together. I'll kick anyone who doesn't let you in. Lu Ming laughed. Qiao Xian was overjoyed. Qiao Xian told her father, Qiao Long, and Qiao Long agreed wholeheartedly. If Qiao Xian could participate in such a gathering, it would definitely increase her knowledge and insight. It would also be very helpful for her future cultivation. Immediately, the group flew toward the center of 9 dragons. The journey of tens of millions of miles was not far for them. They chatted as they flew. They arrived in less than a day. Tens of thousands of miles away, they could see a majestic mountain range meandering on the ground. It was one of the 3 dragon veins in the center of 9 dragons. After traveling for tens of thousands of miles, countless buildings appeared in front of them. There were all kinds of palaces, pavilions, and even shops. They could not see the end of it. It seemed to be a city. However, this city had no walls. Instead, it was filled with countless buildings. People came and went in the buildings. It was very lively. The group walked in and found restaurants, inns, and shops. There were all kinds of things. There were countless people in 9 dragons, and the land was vast. There were many special gathering places. Some places had city walls, such as Juhao City. Some places did not even need city walls, just like what they saw in front of them. The group strolled on the streets. Tingting, is the gathering on the dragon veins? Lu Ming asked. Yes, and it's at the dragon's head, under the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Why don't we go and take a look first? Wan Tingting said. Okay. Lu Ming was also curious. The group passed through the buildings and flew toward the dragon's head. Soon, they arrived at the dragon's head. There was an extremely wide plain at the dragon's head. In the middle of the plain, there was a huge battle platform. There were many seats around the battle platform. According to Wan Tingting, this was the place where the Emperor Deity Palace used to hold grand events in the past. For example, there were sacrifices to the heavens or competitions between geniuses. Therefore, the exchange meeting a few days later was also held here. However, this was not what attracted the group's attention. Their attention was completely attracted by a huge cauldron in front of the open space. At the very front of the dragon head was a huge cauldron. The cauldron was pitch black and as big as a mountain. It towered into the clouds and was at least a few thousand meters tall. Looking from afar, the cauldron looked incomparably majestic. One could see numerous lifelike true dragons circling around it. This is the divine 9-dragon cauldron. There is a divine 9-dragon cauldron at the head of each of the 9 dragon veins. Legend has it that the divine 9-dragon cauldron was already there when 9 Dragon City was founded. No one knows how many years have passed since then. It is said that the ancient experts used it to suppress the 9 dragon veins. Wan Tingting said, A supreme treasure? Why didn't anyone take it away? Lu Ming asked curiously. No one can take it away, not even an Emperor Realm expert. The divine 9-dragon cauldron has been in the world for a long time. It seems to be connected with the dragon vein and has existed since ancient times. Wan Tingting said. Lu Ming was shocked. looking at the divine nine-dragon cauldron in the distance. As for the fatty, Xian Yinqing, Qiao Xian, and the others, although they had heard of it before, it was their first time seeing it. They were also amazed. The 9 cauldrons were carved with true dragons and connected with the dragon vein. They were thousands of meters tall and had existed since ancient times. It was indeed a magnificent sight. Lu Ming and the others were not the only ones nearby. Many others stopped to watch. Over there, it seems like someone is approaching the divine nine-dragon cauldron, Xia Nianqing said. The others also saw a burly young man walking step by step toward the divine nine-dragon cauldron. The divine nine-dragon cauldron emits a great pressure. If you are not an expert, you can't get close to it. Wang Haoxian, who had been silent, said, "Let's go and take a look." Lu Ming said and strode forward. When they were 10,000 meters away from the divine nine-dragon cauldron, they felt a great pressure coming from the cauldron. At this moment, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. When he was 10,000 meters away from the divine nine-dragon cauldron, he suddenly felt something strange with the 9 dragons' bloodline. It seemed to be anxious and excited. What's going on? The 9 dragons' bloodline is strange. Is it because of the divine nine-dragon cauldron? The divine nine-dragon cauldron is engraved with true dragons to suppress the dragon vein. Maybe it really is related to the dragons. That's why the 9 dragons' bloodline is acting strange. Lu Ming guessed in his heart. They continued to move forward despite the pressure. Soon, Qiao Xian could not stand it anymore and stopped moving forward. Lu Ming and the others continued to move forward. The closer they got, the more they felt the divine nine-dragon cauldron was grand and majestic. It was full of vicissitudes as if it had crossed time and space from ancient times. In Lu Ming's body, the 9 dragons' bloodline seemed to be more anxious and excited. The power of the bloodline seemed to be boiling. Bam! Bam! In front, a burly young man kept moving forward. His body was muscular and his blood qi was soaring. The blood qi vaguely formed a dragon that was roaring. That's not a human. It's a demon. It's a dragon, Xia Nianqing said. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He also saw that the burly young man in front of him was not a human but a dragon. He should be a genius from the Sky Demon Valley, a level 6 beast that could transform. The young man from the demon clan moved forward step by step and finally walked under the divine nine-dragon cauldron. He glanced at the cauldron and stretched out his hands to hug a corner of the cauldron. Haha, that dragon is really whimsical. It wants to hug the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Dream on. That's a treasure that even emperors can't touch. In the distance, someone sneered. Sure enough, the dragon looked up to the sky and roared, but the cauldron did not move. In the end, the dragon even showed its true form. It was a crimson dragon that was more than 200 meters long. Its claws grabbed the cauldron, but the cauldron still did not move. In the end, the dragon had no choice but to turn back into a human and retreat step by step. At this time, the 9 dragons' bloodline in Lu Ming's body became even more violent, as if it was about to rush out of his body. Lu Ming's mind moved, and he controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline. He could not let it appear here. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if word got out. Immediately, Lu Ming retreated. Roar! At this time, the 9 dragons' bloodline seemed to let out a shocking roar. This roar sounded in Lu Ming's body, but the others could not hear it. But at this moment, a shocking scene happened. Dong! The divine nine-dragon cauldron in front of them suddenly shook. Suddenly, the dragon veins shook, the wind and clouds changed, and a terrifying pressure erupted from the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Oh no, retreat! Lu Ming and the others hurriedly retreated. After retreating 10,000 meters, the pressure was much less. After the divine nine-dragon cauldron shook for a while, it fell silent again, as if everything just now was an illusion. However, The scene had already exploded. Chapter 829. The Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, which even emperors couldn't touch, moved. Why? Why did it suddenly move? Countless people guessed in shock. Many people had even sent the news back to the elders in their families. Is it because of the Nine Dragons' bloodline? The Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron moved because of the Nine Dragons' bloodline? Lu Ming guessed in his heart, "Let's go. Let's get out of here." Lu Ming said he estimated that a big shot would come soon to check on the situation. After all, the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, which hadn't moved for thousands of years, suddenly moved. It was too abnormal. Bang! Suddenly, a tall figure descended behind Lu Ming and blocked Lu Ming's way. It was the Flood Dragon of the Demon Clan. "Sir, why are you blocking my way?" Lu Ming frowned. The Flood Dragon exuded a powerful aura as it stared at Lu Ming with a look of surprise and greed. "Your bloodline is very special. Let me take your bloodline, and I'll spare your life," the Flood Dragon said coldly. It was extremely overbearing and greedy. It seemed to have sensed the abnormality of the Nine Dragons' bloodline in Lu Ming's body. "Nest, is there something wrong with this reptile's brain? Who does he think he is? He wants to take my bloodline as soon as he opens his mouth." Fatty was furious when he heard that. He stared at the Flood Dragon unkindly. "How dare you be so arrogant here? This is Nine Dragon City." Wan Tingting also said, coldly, "How dare you insult me? You're courting death." The Flood Dragon shouted coldly with a cold light in its eyes, "Nest, this stinky reptile is still so arrogant. I suggest that we kill him and barbecue him." Fatty shouted and swallowed his saliva. "You're courting death." The Flood Dragon shouted angrily and threw a punch at Fatty. "I'm not afraid of you." Fatty raised his battle axe and charged forward. The axe whistled as it chopped down. Clang! The Flood Dragon's fist hit Fatty's battle axe. With a loud bang, Fatty's expression changed. His fat shook violently as he retreated 7 or 8 steps and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This Flood Dragon's level reached the peak of the 6th level of the 6th level, which was equivalent to the peak of the 6th level of the spiritual C-tier, while the Fatty was only at the 5th level of the spiritual C-tier. "None of you can leave today." The Flood Dragon's eyes glinted coldly. The bloodline purity of this serpent dragon has reached 20%. It's incredibly powerful. Wang Haoxian appeared beside Lu Ming and said, "Depending on the purity of the bloodline of the celestial beasts, one's talent and strength would differ as well. Ordinary descendants were said to have the bloodline of a divine beast, but it was very thin. It might only be 1% or a few tenths. Those that could reach 1/10 of the concentration were extremely rare. Such descendants were extremely powerful and could even contend with God-ranked geniuses who had awakened their God-ranked bloodline. The serpentine dragon before him possessed the bloodline of the pure-blooded dragon, and had already achieved 20% of its bloodline. As for the flood dragon that Lu Ming had met on Jinsha Island in the chaotic astral ocean, it contained at most a few tenths of a true dragon's bloodline. Bang! The flood dragon stepped towards Lu Ming. On the side, Xian Yinqing and Wang Haoxian were about to make a move. "Let me." Lu Ming waved his hand, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Boom! The flood dragon was very domineering, and it threw a punch at Lu Ming. "Since you don't want to hand it over, I'll take it myself." The flood dragon's mouth curled into a sinister sneer. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he said, "Fatty, I'll eat the meat of the flood dragon tonight." Then he took a step forward and threw out a palm. The palm and the flood dragon's fist collided. Bang! There was a dull roar in the air, and then the flood dragon's expression changed drastically. Its body trembled and it retreated. Dong! Lu Ming took a step forward, and in an instant he was 100 meters away. He caught up with the flood dragon and threw out another palm. Roar! The flood dragon roared and turned into a 200-meter-long, crimson flood dragon. Its scales were dense, and its dragon claws were as sharp as knives. It tore at Lu Ming. Lu Ming threw out another palm, and it collided with the flood dragon's claws. The flood dragon roared, and its huge body frantically retreated. One of its finger bones was broken by Lu Ming. This flood dragon had 20% of the bloodline of the true dragon, and its strength was about the same as Gui Yu's. Naturally, it was completely crushed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming strode forward, grabbed one of the flood dragon's claws, and with a loud roar, he threw the flood dragon's huge body directly into the air and heavily smashed on the ground by Lu Ming. Boom! The ground shook violently, but the ground here had been suppressed by the divine nine-dragon cauldron for many years, and it was indestructible. The huge flood dragon's body smashed down, and the ground only shook, but it did not break at all. A series of crackling sounds were heard, and the flood dragon screamed. It did not know how many of its bones were broken, and its body was bleeding profusely. Nearby, the others who were watching were dumbfounded. Lu Ming was too violent. Such a powerful flood dragon was like a useless worm in the hands of Lu Ming. Haha, let me do it. Tonight, we'll eat flood dragon meat. Fatty shouted, and with a battle axe he chopped at the flood dragon. The flood dragon roared and struggled. The moment Fatty chopped at it, its body continued to shrink. At the same time, its body was covered in a bloody light, like a bloody flame burning. But it was still a step too late. Blood splattered everywhere, and one of its legs was chopped off by Fatty. Whoosh! In the next moment, the flood dragon turned into a bloody light and disappeared in an instant. Lu Ming wanted to let Fatty have it, but when he let his guard down, the flood dragon disappeared. It actually burned the divine beast bloodline in its body. Even if it doesn't die, it's ruined its future. Lu Ming muttered. Just now, the flood dragon's speed increased because it burned the divine beast bloodline in its body. Of course, this was also the reason why Lu Ming let his guard down. Otherwise, even if the flood dragon burned its divine beast bloodline, it would not be able to escape. Next, it actually ran away. Luckily, it left a leg. Fatty shouted gloomily and ran toward the flood dragon's leg that was dozens of meters long. Haha, let's go back and roast the flood dragon meat. Fatty hugged the flood dragon's leg and carried it on his shoulder. He laughed, and his saliva almost flowed out. Nearby, the others were speechless. This group of people, are they really going to roast the flood dragon's leg? Many of them even swallowed their saliva. The flood dragon's meat that contained the true dragon's bloodline was a great tonic. Fatty, let's go back and roast the meat, but you should keep it first. Lu Ming smiled. Fatty kept the flood dragon's leg, and the group left happily. They came to a small mountain hundreds of thousands of miles away, lit a bonfire, and started roasting the flood dragon's leg. Fatty was an elite foodie. His roasting skills were superb, and he always had seasonings like soy sauce, vinegar, oil, salt, and other seasonings in his storage ring. Soon, the flood dragon's leg turned golden. The grease dripped, and the aroma filled the air. The flood dragon's meat was cut into pieces, and the group ate heartily. Chapter 830. When the flood dragon meat entered his stomach, it turned into a warm heat that spread throughout his body. There were traces of true dragon bloodline flowing throughout his body, which was extremely beneficial to his physical body and could increase his physical body strength. If he could eat it for a long time, the benefits would be endless. Haha, Lu Ming, how can there be no good wine when there's meat? Here. Fatty waved his hand, and jugs of wine appeared, flying to Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others. Everyone opened the jugs and drank in big mouthfuls. Fatty, I didn't expect your skills to be so good. Wan Tingting drank a few mouthfuls of wine, but she did not force the wine out of her body. Instantly, her beautiful face flushed red, making her look even more beautiful. Fatty was stunned, almost drooling. Ting Ting, how is it? Follow me from now on. I guarantee you'll eat and drink, well, every day. Xian Yinqing, Qiao Xian, and the others looked down on Fatty. This reason was too shallow. Just as Lu Ming and the others were eating and drinking at the dragon's head, under the divine nine-dragon cauldron, many important people came. They received news that the divine nine-dragon cauldron, which had remained motionless for thousands of years, actually moved. They immediately rushed over to check the situation. But unfortunately, no matter what they did, the divine nine-dragon cauldron did not move. They did not know why the divine nine-dragon cauldron moved, so in the end, they could only leave it as it was. More than 2 hours later, Lu Ming was full, and the remaining flood dragon meat was put away by Fatty in the name of storage. Just like that, they sat cross-legged on the small mountain peak, each of them cultivating and waiting for the gathering 2 days later. Wang Haoxian did not cultivate. Her heart was in a mess. In the past, she was focused on cultivation, and the only person close to her was her younger brother. She did not have any other friends, and did not fit in with the other Wang family geniuses. However, over the past few days, when she was with Lu Ming and the rest, she felt very relaxed and comfortable. She suddenly felt that she enjoyed such an atmosphere very much. Is this what friends are like? Wang Haoxian muttered, then shook her head, reminding herself that she followed Lu Ming because she had no other choice. If there was a chance, she would still avenge her younger brother. Although she tried to convince herself, her heart could not calm down, and she was not in the mood to cultivate. The others naturally did not know that Wang Haoxian was thinking nonsense. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. On this day, the huge platform under the divine nine-dragon cauldron was bustling with people, young men and women of different temperaments, all of them, flying. Lu Ming, Xian Yinqing, the fatty, and the group of 6 also came here. They found an area and sat down. So many geniuses, most of the top 300 god-level geniuses, are here. Wang Haoxian looked around and said softly. Wang Haoxian was the only one on the list of top 1,000 talents. Naturally, he knew more people than Lu Ming and the rest. Of course, most of the young people who came were here to watch the show. It was impossible for them to participate in the exchange. This exchange was destined to be a showdown between the top figures. Someone shouted. In the north, a group of more than 200 people, all dressed in long black robes, flew toward them. Of course, they were all young people and there were no seniors. The most eye-catching one was the person flying at the front. He was tall and burly, but he was carrying a coffin on his back. The coffin was pitch black, even though it was broad daylight and there was a sea of people. Everyone still felt that it was eerie and very scary when they looked at it. That's Sher Mo, ranked 102nd on the list of top 1,000 talents. He refined corpses like demons. Wang Haoxian said with a serious face. The other people's faces also turned serious. The 102nd on the list of top 1,000 talents was absolutely terrifying. Obviously, Sher Mo was the leader of the Heavenly Corpse sect. The 200 people of the Heavenly Corpse sect stood motionless in the void. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just then, from the east, there was a burst of air-rending sounds. Many young people flew through the air. There were about 200 of them, but these young men had different temperaments. Some looked ferocious, some looked heroic, some looked cold, and some looked charming. The clothes they wore were also of all shapes and sizes, with all sorts of colors. The demons of the Sky Monster Valley had arrived. The demons of the Sky Monster Valley also stood in the air, looking down at the people below with a powerful aura. Their gazes swept across the entire area with faint disdain. The talents of the Sky Monster Valley had the bloodline of divine beasts. They thought they were superior and looked down on the martial artists of the human clan. It was just a rumor, but now it seemed that it was true. It's that flood dragon. Fatty clicked his tongue and whispered. Among the demons, they saw a burly youth. This burly youth had a broken leg. It was the same WIRM whose leg was chopped off by Fatty 2 days ago. The flood dragon's eyes were gloomy as he scanned the crowd. The next moment, he saw Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others were also in the east. When the flood dragon saw Lu Ming and the others, his eyes were cold and murderous. He whispered a few words in the ear of a young man in red armor beside him. Then, the young man in red armor looked coldly at Lu Ming and the others. Whoosh! Whoosh! The flood dragon and the young man in red armor instantly appeared above Lu Ming and the others. A powerful and violent aura burst out and suppressed Lu Ming and the others. What's going on? The others beside him were shocked. Lu Ming and the others sat still. Are you the ones who broke Ao Qian's leg? The young man in red armor said coldly as he looked down at Lu Ming and the others. Flood dragon, meat tastes good. Fatty licked his lips and sneered. You're courting death. The young man in red armor shouted angrily. His aura became even more violent, as if he was going to kill them in the next moment. The other young men of the demon clan looked on with cold smiles. Friends of the demon clan, the exchange has not started yet. Please go back now. At this moment, a voice came from afar like a breeze. As the voice fell, a figure walked in the air. It was a young man in a green robe. He had sharp eyebrows and was very handsome. He had a gentle smile on his face, but there was an invisible majesty exuding from his body. Di Feng, it's Di Feng! Many people exclaimed. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Di Feng, who was ranked 101st on the list of top 1,000 talents, was said to be the descendant of martial Emperor Di. He had the talent of his ancestor and was extremely powerful. Di Feng! The young man in red armor looked fearful. Di Feng looked at the young man in red armor and the flood dragon. He smiled and said, Please go back. If you want to fight, we will fight when the exchange begins. Since Di Feng had spoken, the young man in red armor had to give him face. He snorted and looked at Lu Ming and the others. You broke Ao Qian's leg. I will pay you back double. Chapter 831. Brother Shi Mo, Brother Peng. How should we proceed with this exchange? Why don't you give us some suggestions? Di Feng smiled and looked at a young man in golden robes among Shi Mo and the beast race. In the Nine Dragon City, the number of prodigies is definitely more than the Emperor Divine Palace. If all of you go up, we will be at a disadvantage. How about this? For each level, each side will send out 10 people and take turns to compete. When one side is eliminated, the side with the most people remaining will win. What do you guys think? Shi Mo spoke. His voice was extremely hoarse, like the sound of metal rubbing against each other. Good, that's what I want. The young man in golden robes spoke. Obviously, he was the leader of the beast race. Okay, I have no objections. However, forget about the lower 3 levels of the spiritual sea realm. Let's start from the 4th level. How about that? Di Feng said. Okay. Shi Mo and the young man in golden robes both nodded in agreement. Since that's the case, let's choose our own candidates. After saying that, Di Feng flew down from the spectator stand and discussed the matter of the candidates with the other human prodigies. This battle was considered the most intense battle before the Battle of Providence. It could be used to test the other side and also to suppress the other side's momentum. The 3 sides didn't dare to be careless and would send out their strongest candidates. After a while, a young man flew over to Lu Ming's side. After flying over, he cupped his fists at Kong Jin and said, Brother Kong Jin? It's me. The fatty was slightly stunned. Brother Kong Jin's cultivation should be at the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. Young Master Defeng would like to invite Brother Kong to participate in the battle of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. The young man said, "Me? Haha. Thanks to young Master Defeng, I agree." The fatty laughed loudly and felt a little smug. With so many people choosing him, he was naturally proud. Lu Ming and the others were moved. It was probably because of the fatty's powerful battle prowess in the battle with the Heavenly Corpse sect. That was why he was invited to participate. Many thanks. The young man smiled and then turned to leave. Why didn't you invite Lu Ming? Wan Tingting was a little surprised. Logically speaking, half a month ago, in the battle with Ghost Moon of the Heavenly Corpse sect, Lu Ming showed even more powerful battle prowess. Why didn't they invite Lu Ming for the battle of the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm? Xian Yanqing, the fatty, Qiao, and the others were also surprised. I guess they didn't choose Lu Ming's battle prowess because there are too many of them and they don't know Lu's bloodline level. So they'd on. So. Not long after, the candidates from the 3 parties were selected. This time around, our Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace will be the host. Let's start with our Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Defeng smiled and announced a name. Whoosh! A young man flew to the fighting ring in the middle. His body was as sharp as a blade, and his aura was extremely sharp. He was at the peak of the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm. Judging by his cultivation method, he was the Jiang clan's genius. Who will fight with me? The Jiang clan genius looked in the direction of the Heavenly Corpse sect and Sky Monster Valley. Let me. A figure flashed out from the Heavenly Corpse sect and landed in the fighting ring. His aura was also at the peak of the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm. Dong! Without saying anything, the Jiang clan youth stepped forward. His aura was even sharper. He was like a saber. His arm was like a saber, and he slashed at the Heavenly Corpse sect youth. The Heavenly Corpse sect youth quickly retreated and distanced himself from the Jiang clan genius. With a wave of his hand, 9 refined corpses appeared in front of him. The 9 refined corpses all exuded an ancient aura. They wore metal armor and held bronze spears in their hands. The aura emitted by the 9 refined corpses had all reached the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. The Heavenly Corpse sect youth was only at the peak of the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm, but he could control 9 refined corpses at the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. It was absolutely terrifying. Kill! The Jiang clan genius put on a serious expression and slashed down with his palm. Dong! He clashed with one of the refined corpses and sent it flying. The refined corpse had copper skin and iron bones, and it was invulnerable. The Jiang clan genius only sent it flying, but he didn't break it. After the refined corpse was sent flying, the other 8 refined corpses pounced on the Jiang clan's genius. 8 long spears pierced through the void, emitting terrifying sonic booms as they charged towards the Jiang clan's genius. The Jiang clan genius looked up to the sky and roared. His whole body emitted a black light, like an extremely sharp divine weapon, and he attacked. The 2 of them were definitely extremely powerful geniuses. Although they weren't god-grade geniuses, their battle strength was absolutely terrifying among those of the same level. The 2 fought fiercely, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of rounds had passed. The Jiang clan genius attacked, trying to break through the defense of the refined corpses and kill the Heavenly Corpse sect disciple. The best way to break through the refined corpses was to defeat the person controlling them. However, facing 9 fearless refined corpses that were 2 levels higher than him, it was extremely difficult for the Jiang clan genius to break through. The situation became a stalemate for a while. After more than 100 rounds, the Jiang clan genius's vital energy ran out and he was blasted off the fighting ring, ending in defeat. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace lost the first battle of the exchange, which made many people's faces turn ugly. After the Heavenly Corpse sect youth won, He flew off the fighting ring and sat down cross-legged to recover. He could have continued to fight, but it was obvious that he had consumed a lot of energy. He could only fight again after he recovered. The Heavenly Corpse sect won this battle, so they should send another person to fight. Whoosh! Another Heavenly Corpse sect youth stepped onto the fighting ring. This time, it was the Sky Beast Valley's turn to fight. This time, the Sky Beast Valley sent out a tall youth who was a demonic tiger. He had the bloodline of the divine beast Heavenly Tiger, but the concentration of his bloodline had not reached 10%. Among the demonic beasts, it was extremely rare for their bloodline to reach 10% concentration, just like how it was rare for a human to awaken a god-grade bloodline. However, even though it had not reached 10% concentration, it was close. This demonic tiger was very powerful. After exchanging dozens of rounds with the Heavenly Corpse sect's disciple, he defeated his opponent. In this way, the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Sky Beast Valley each won a battle. I will continue to fight. Now, it's the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's turn, right? The demonic tiger looked at the many geniuses of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Let me. A youth flew up from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. This time, the geniuses were from the top of the 6 ancient clans, the Dongfang clan. They were the geniuses of the Dongfang clan. It was said that the Dongfang clan had 2 god-grade cultivation techniques, which were extremely powerful. Chapter 832. Just like that, the 3 parties took turns to fight, each with their own victories and defeats. Most of the god-level talents on the list of top 1,000 talents were at the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm, such as Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian, who were at the bottom of the list, were at the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. Therefore, there were very few god-level talents at the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm. In the end, a new talent appeared in the Heavenly Corpse sect, who had awakened the bloodline of the 1st level of the god level. In the end, the Heavenly Corpse sect won the battle of the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm. This made Defang's face turn gloomy. In the past, Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and Sky Demon Valley were about the same in strength, and the Heavenly Corpse sect was the weakest. But this time, the Heavenly Corpse sect won the battle. Next, let's start the battle of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. Defeng announced. The battle of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm was more intense, and the power was more terrifying. However, this fighting ring was covered with inscription arrays. Not to mention the spiritual sea realm, even the spiritual embryo realm could not destroy it, so everyone could fight to their heart's content. In the beginning, the battle of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm was also won by each of the 3 parties. But soon, Sky Demon Valley sent out a powerful descendant whose bloodline had reached the 10th level. His combat power was extremely terrifying, and he suppressed the other 2 parties. This person had the bloodline of the ancient heavenly crocodile, and his defensive power was terrifying. 3 people from the Heavenly Corpse sect and Emperor Heaven Divine Palace were defeated by him. Damn it! Doesn't our Emperor Heaven Divine Palace have any god-level talents at the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm? The talents on the list of top 1,000 talents seem to have reached the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. If there are any, they must be new talents. Everyone was talking about it. At this moment, a figure flew into the field. Someone recognized that this young man was one of the Emperor Heaven Forbidden Guards. What was exciting was that this talent had awakened the 1st level of the god-level bloodline, and his combat power was so strong that he fought with the talent of the Demon Clan. After hundreds of rounds, the battle ended in a draw. Finally, everyone discussed and decided that it was a draw. But what was frustrating was that another young man from Sky Demon Valley went up. This young man was a flood dragon, and his bloodline he had also reached the 10th level. He had consecutively defeated several geniuses of the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. It can't be. The Sky Beast Valley has so many powerful existences in the fifth layer of the spiritual sea realm. Could it be that they are going to lose this battle again? If that's the case, the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Sky Demon Valley will each win a round. This is very disadvantageous for our Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace. Indeed, the sixth layer of the spiritual sea realm is the battlefield of the deity grade prodigies. There are many deity grade prodigies, and none of them are weak. It's too difficult to win in the end. It's the same for the seventh layer of the spiritual sea realm. If that's the case, wouldn't our Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace fall behind this time? Many people from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace were discussing this and feeling worried. I'll go and meet this flood dragon. Maybe I can even get a piece of flood dragon meat. This flood dragon seems to be of the wind attribute. Fatty licked his lips. Everyone else was speechless. Fatty, can you do it? The other party is a descendant with 10% of the divine beast's bloodline. Wan Ting Ting was a little worried. The Fatty's third bloodline had yet to be awakened. Would he be able to defeat the other party? Ting Ting, don't worry. This Fatty isn't that weak. Lu Ming said with a faint smile. Fatty's battle prowess was extremely strong. Before Lu Ming awakened his divine bloodline, he wasn't confident of winning against Fatty. In a battle of the same level, even if the other party had 10% of the divine beast's bloodline, Lu Ming would still believe in Fatty. The previous flood dragon was at the peak of the sixth layer of the spiritual sea realm and had 20% of the divine beast's bloodline. That was why Fatty was suppressed. Haha, Lu Ming knows me best. Fatty smiled. Carrying his axe, he leaped into the air. Little reptile, let me have a go at you. Fatty chuckled. Fat pig, you're courting death. This flood dragon from the demon race wore a green robe and had a gloomy expression. Ao Fong, cripple this Fatty for me. In the demon race's area, Ao Qian's cold voice rang out. Previously, one of his legs was chopped off by Fatty's axe. What are you shouting for? The flood dragon meat is indeed tasty. There's still some left. After the fight, I'll go back and roast it. Fatty grinned. This time, the demonic beasts were infuriated. Damn it, this Fatty deserves to die. Kill this fat pig. This is outrageous. Many demon race geniuses shouted angrily and looked at Fatty with murderous intent. As for the people from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, they were stunned. Could it be that Fatty really roasted the flood dragon meat? It's true. I saw it with my own eyes. Previously, someone saw Lu Ming and the rest chopping off one of Ao Qian's legs and confirmed it. Many people looked at Ao Qian and realized that he was indeed missing a leg. Instantly, their expressions became even stranger. Fatty, you're dead meat. I'll cripple your limbs. Ao Feng's expression was extremely ugly. Nonsense, eat my axe. Fatty raised his axe and chopped at Ao Feng. A long spear appeared in Ao Feng's hand and stabbed at Fatty. Clang! There was a loud sound and the long spear buzzed. Ao Feng's long spear shook violently. Ao Feng was actually pushed back by Fatty. How can this be? Ao Feng roared and waved his spear again. Sky-suppressing demonic axe. The huge axe in Fatty's hand turned into a heaven-splitting axe and chopped at Ao Feng like a storm. Clang! Clang! There were continuous explosions in the fighting ring. The battle axe and the long spear kept clashing. Every time they clashed, Ao Feng had to take a step back. Everyone in the fighting ring was astonished. Fatty obviously had not awakened his divine bloodline. However, he could suppress Ao Feng, whose bloodline was 10% pure. His combat strength was too terrifying. This person's combat strength is extremely strong. Judging from his appearance, he has not awakened his third bloodline. If he can awaken a divine bloodline with his third bloodline, his potential will be limitless. We must think of a way to rope him into our camp. Di Feng said to someone beside him. Martial monarch Di had many descendants. They competed with each other and were divided into many camps. That's right. However, this person has not awakened his third bloodline. If he can't awaken a divine bloodline, everything will be in vain. Another person said, Yes, let's observe him for a while more. Lu Ming, who is with him, and that beautiful lady, Xian Yinqing, are also rare talents. Lu Ming, if I'm not wrong, should have awakened his divine level bloodline. Di Feng said. Another person nodded. Roar. At that moment, Ao Feng roared and transformed into his true form. He then pounced at Fatty. When a beast transformed into its true form, its combat strength could be unleashed perfectly. Worm, watch how I kill you. Fatty shouted. His fat body swelled up and the battle axe in his hand became even more terrifying. It became a heaven-splitting axe and slashed at the serpent. Bang! Bang! A violent collision occurred. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 10 blows. Fatty became fiercer and fiercer as he roared into the sky. Slash! Chapter 833. Ao Feng let out a shrill scream. His huge body struggled crazily and retreated. After a few breaths, he left the fighting ring and turned back into a human, looking at the Fatty with resentment. A huge flood dragon's claw was left on the fighting ring. Damn it, damn it! Ao Feng yelled. Bang! At this moment, a figure fell heavily on the fighting ring, emitting a strong murderous intent. This figure was wearing red armor. It was the young man who provoked Lu Ming with Ao Qian. Damn Fatty, you've completely pissed me off. The young man in red armor said coldly with a hint of madness in his voice. The aura he emitted was at the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. My name is Ao Kuan. Fat pig, do you dare to fight with me? The young man in red armor stared at the Fatty. Lu Ming frowned. He felt that this young man was not simple. He was indeed at the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm, but he was extremely arrogant. He knew that Lu Ming had defeated Ao Qian, but he still dared to provoke Lu Ming. He was definitely not simple. Fatty, be careful. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the Fatty. The Fatty's eyes flashed and he grinned. Why not? Bang! As soon as the Fatty finished speaking, Ao Kuan stepped forward and threw out a punch. Fast, too fast. Ao Kuan's body and fist seemed to be connected. With a punch, he had already appeared in front of the Fatty. His fist was aimed at the Fatty's arm. He wanted to cripple the Fatty's arm. The Fatty's face changed. He did not expect the opponent to be so fast. At the critical moment, he could only pick up his battle axe to block. Clang! Ao Kuan's fist hit the Fatty's battle axe. The battle axe shook violently, and the Fatty's face changed greatly. His fat body was thrown back. Bang! Ao Kuan stomped heavily on the ground. His whole body was like an ancient, ferocious beast, rushing towards the Fatty in a barbaric way. He threw another punch at the Fatty's arm. The Fatty roared. His body swelled, and the battle axe was thrown out like the wind. Dong! Ao Kuan's fist was even tougher than divine weapons. When it collided with the battle axe, an oppressive boom rang out. Amidst the intense vibrations, the Fatty let out a miserable groan. He actually couldn't hold on to the battle axe any longer. The battle axe was flung far away, and he retreated madly, coughing up blood. Countless people's expressions changed. This scene was too shocking. Just now, Fatty's battle prowess was obvious to all. While he hadn't awakened his divine bloodline, he had still defeated a flood dragon with 10% divine bloodline, shocking everyone present. But now, in front of Ao Kuan, he didn't have the strength to fight back. Without a doubt, Ao Kuan was also a descendant that possessed a powerful divine beast bloodline. The key question was, just how thick was it that it was so terrifying? Cripple your limbs. Ao Kuan shouted coldly and strode towards Fatty. Fatty, get off the stage and admit defeat. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Fatty. On the side, Xian Yinqing frowned. Wan Tingting and Qiao Xian's hearts were in their throats. Bam! The fatty took a step back, and his fat body retreated rapidly. However, Alcuin's speed was too terrifying. He caught up with the fatty in an instant, and another terrifying punch was thrown out. There were no extra movements, just a simple punch. However, Alcuin's physical strength was too terrifying. Fatty roared, and an ancient shield appeared in his hand, blocking in front of him. Boom! Alcuin's punch landed on the ancient shield and sent it flying. The ancient shield collided with Fatty's body, almost flattening him. Fatty's body was also sent flying backwards. This time he was directly blasted out of the fighting ring and fell heavily off the fighting ring. Wan Tingting and Qiao Xian immediately flew over and helped Fatty up. "Fatty, you're not dead, right?" Wan Tingting asked with concern. Fatty coughed out a few more mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale as he said, "I'm fine, it's nothing. My skin is rough and my flesh is thick." "Humph, you're lucky this time." Alcuin stood on the stage, looking down at Fatty, and said coldly, "What are you being arrogant for? If I awaken my divine beast bloodline, I'll crush you like a bug." Fatty clamored as a cold light flashed in his eyes. Fatty was not one to suffer losses. This time he was defeated so miserably because he had not awakened his third bloodline. "Fatty, when the exchange is over, I'll take revenge for you." Lu Ming walked over and glanced at Alcuin coldly. Alcuin looked straight into Lu Ming's eyes and smiled coldly. Lu Ming and Fatty returned to the spectator stand. Fatty began to heal his injuries. "Who else wants to fight?" Alcuin looked around and planned to continue to challenge. The arena was silent, although there were still a few people from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and Heavenly Corpse Sect who had not fought. They were just ordinary geniuses. Alcuin's combat strength was too terrifying. If they went up, wouldn't they be looking for trouble? No one from either side went up. "Let the Sky Demon Valley win this round," Di Feng said helplessly. Sky Demon Valley won the battle of 5th level spiritual sea realm. However, Alcuin did not plan to go down. He looked around and said, "Since that's the case, I'll challenge your 6th level spiritual sea realm experts. Come." "What? You're 5th level spiritual sea realm, and you want to challenge 6th level spiritual sea realm experts? Too arrogant." The surrounding crowd shouted out in displeasure. "Brother Peng, he's 5th level spiritual sea realm. Is he really going to participate in the battle of 6th level spiritual sea realm experts?" Di Feng frowned and looked at the golden-robed young man. "That's right. Among the 10 5th level spiritual sea realm experts, there's Alcuin's name. Among the 6th level spiritual sea realm experts, there's also Alcuin's name. Why?" "It should be okay for a lower level to participate in a higher level battle, right?" The golden-robed young man smiled. "Of course." Di Feng nodded. As long as one was willing, it was okay for a lower level to participate in a higher level battle. Alcuin wanted to participate in the battle of 6th level spiritual sea realm experts with 5th level spiritual sea realm strength. "Who wants to fight?" Alcuin looked around. "I'll do it." A voice sounded. A young man from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace flew up to the battle stage. There was no lack of geniuses in the 6th level spiritual sea realm. Both Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and Heavenly Corpse Sect had many experts. This young man was a genius of the Emperor Heaven Forbidden Guard. He had awakened a 2nd level divine bloodline and was extremely powerful. In the next moment, the two figures clashed together. However, the result of the battle was shocking. In just a few moves, the Emperor Heaven Forbidden Guard expert was forced to retreat. In the end, he even used bloodline fusion, but it was useless. He was beaten back to his original form and was blasted off the battle stage while spitting out blood. Everyone was shocked. With a lower level of cultivation, Alcuin defeated a genius who had awakened a 2nd level divine bloodline. That was too terrifying. 50% divine beast bloodline. Defang's eyes flashed as he said a shocking result. Countless people gasped. This Alcuin actually had 50% divine beast bloodline. That was too terrifying. It meant that half of the blood in Alcuin's body was no different from that of a divine beast. If a human martial artist could not awaken a 5th-level divine bloodline, they would not be able to compete with him at the same level. Even if their cultivation was 1 level higher, they would have to awaken a 4th-level divine bloodline at least. Chapter 834. Fuck, so he has 50% true dragon bloodline. No wonder he's so arrogant. But if I awaken a divine bloodline, I'll definitely beat him. The fatty cursed, but he was very confident. Fatty, keep bragging. You can awaken a divine bloodline above level 5? Wan Tingting said. There was an uproar and all kinds of discussions were going on. 50% divine beast bloodline was equivalent to a level 5 divine bloodline. Only the top geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness had such a bloodline. Even Defeng and Sher Mo, the strongest geniuses present, only had level 4 divine bloodline. If Alcuin's cultivation improved, he would immediately be on par with the top 100 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents. Who else wants to come up? Alcuin looked around arrogantly. Everyone was silent. After a while, someone from the Heavenly Corpse sect went up. This person was an extremely famous genius, ranked 189 on the list of top 1,000 talents. He had awakened a level 3 divine bloodline and was at the peak of the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. This person fought with Alcuin, and the two exchanged nearly 100 blows. In the end, Alcuin reverted to his original form, which was a 500-meter-long blood-red flood dragon. He was like a real dragon, and with just one blow, he sent the genius of the Heavenly Corpse sect flying. He won another round. At this time, both the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect were silent. Was Alcuin going to win the round of the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm as well? There were still a few geniuses from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace who had awakened a level 3 divine bloodline, but the genius of the Heavenly Corpse sect had been defeated. Their level 3 divine bloodline had also been defeated. In addition, there were a few geniuses who had awakened a level 4 divine bloodline, but their cultivation had surpassed the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. Both sides fell silent. They did not expect such a terrifying genius to appear in the Sky Monster Valley. Moreover, he was a newly risen genius, and his cultivation was not particularly high. On the list of top 1,000 talents, the geniuses of the same level as him were already very high in cultivation, far exceeding the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. Ao Kuin returned to his human form and scanned the surroundings. Suddenly, he looked at Lu Ming and pointed a finger at Lu Ming, saying loudly, Aren't you very arrogant? You injured a prodigy of my flood dragon tribe and crippled one of his legs. Now I challenge you to a duel. Do you dare to accept? Following Alcuin's finger, almost everyone looked at Lu Ming. Alcuin wanted to challenge Lu Ming. Clearly, there was some sort of conflict between the two of them. You want to challenge him? He's not in our list of 10. Defeng frowned. It doesn't matter. This time, it's not part of the competition. It's a personal grudge between us. Alcuin said loudly, then looked at Lu Ming and said, Kid, come up and fight me if you have the guts. If you don't, you can just admit defeat and kneel down and beg for mercy. Lu Ming stood up with a cold smile on his face. He was also a little surprised that Alcuin would take the initiative to challenge him. However, this was exactly what he wanted. Originally, he was not in the list of 10, so he could not fight. He was still thinking of finding trouble with Alcuin after the exchange. He did not expect Alcuin to send himself to him. I accept this duel. Lu Ming's figure moved, and he appeared in the fighting ring directly. This surprised many people. Alcuin's combat strength was obvious to all. He was extremely powerful. Even if he was one level higher than him, he would be almost invincible. Lu Ming dared to accept the challenge? Where did his confidence come from? Or was he provoked by Alcuin and could not put down his pride? Wasn't this too unwise? Wasn't he looking for a beating by going up the fighting ring? Ha ha, I didn't expect you to dare to go up the fighting ring. Then, do you dare to fight me to the death? A trace of hidden greed flashed in Alcuin's eyes. Last time, Ao Qian told him that there was something in Lu Ming's body that was very tempting to him. It was very likely that it was Lu Ming's bloodline which made him very tempted. Something that could make Ao Qian unable to resist the temptation was definitely extraordinary. Perhaps it could make the density of his true dragon bloodline reach a higher level. Although Lu Ming had now restrained himself and he could not sense it, he still decided to find a chance to kill Lu Ming and seize Lu Ming's bloodline. Therefore, he proposed a life-and-death duel. The people around were also shocked. It seemed that Lu Ming had a deep grudge with the Jiao Dragon tribe. Otherwise, why would Alcuin propose a life-and-death duel? A life-and-death duel was different from the previous sparring. Previously, the sparring would usually end with serious injuries at most. A life-and-death duel would only end when one side died. Would Lu Ming agree? Everyone could not help but look forward to it. A life-and-death duel to determine life and death. Fatty, this whole Jiao dragon meat is enough for us to eat for 10 days to half a month, right? Lu Ming suddenly smiled and looked at Fatty. Haha, it's enough. It should be enough if we eat sparingly. Fatty grinned. However, his eyes were a little serious. He secretly sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming, telling him to be careful. He had just felt that Alcuin's power was indeed extraordinary. The conversation between the two stunned the people around. Also, did Lu Ming agree? You're courting death. Kid, do you agree or not? Alcuin said coldly. Why wouldn't I agree when there's Jiao dragon meat to eat? Lu Ming smiled. All right, if that's the case, then you've agreed. Then die. Alcuin's laughter was full of killing intent. He did not expect that Lu Ming would really agree. He just casually mentioned the life-and-death duel. He originally thought that Lu Ming would definitely refuse in fear. He was just thinking that if Lu Ming did not agree, he would find a way to trouble Lu Ming after the exchange meeting. He did not expect that Lu Ming would actually agree, which made him overjoyed. Boom! He did not want to delay any longer. He took a big step forward and dashed toward Lu Ming like an awakened primordial beast. He threw a huge punch at Lu Ming. Bang! Similarly, Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch at the flood dragon. This shocked many people. Lu Ming dared to take Alcuin's fist with his fist. Everyone had witnessed how powerful Alcuin's fist was. Even a 6th-level spirit weapon would be shattered by him. Yet, Lu Ming actually wanted to fight Alcuin head-on with his fist. How was this possible? Wasn't he courting death? Many people had such thoughts in their minds. Even Ruan Tingting, Qiao Xian, and Wang Haoxian could not help but stare at the fighting ring with a trace of worry in their eyes. On the contrary, Xian Yinqing was the calmest. She had known Lu Ming for so long and knew Lu Ming best. Since Lu Ming was so calm, it meant that he was confident. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, the two fists finally collided. Boom! A terrible roar sounded, and a terrible force swept out in all directions with the fists as the center, forming a fierce storm. Many people had to take action to break the storm. Dong! The fighting ring shook violently. Chapter 835. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. The person who was pushed back was Alcuin. Alcuin was pushed back 7 steps by Lu Ming. How was that possible? On the other hand, Lu Ming's body only swayed a little. Their fists collided, and Lu Ming actually had the upper hand. Was Lu Ming still human? He was simply a ferocious beast in human form, as expected of a flood dragon with 50% true dragon bloodline. Powerful indeed. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with surprise. His cultivation was one level higher than Alcuin's. Moreover, he had used 80% of his true essence, coupled with the suppressing hell-heaven skill, which was equivalent to an upper-grade god-level martial skill. It was extremely powerful and overbearing, not to mention geniuses who were one level lower than him. Even Ao, Qian, and Guiyu had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood. However, Alcuin was only pushed back 7 steps. This was the first time Lu Ming had encountered someone with a lower cultivation than him who could block his attack. Lu Ming was shocked. Alcuin was simply shocked. However, after the shock, he was filled with endless anger. He, Alcuin, was a proud son of heaven. His body had the bloodline of a true dragon with 50% concentration. His talent was heaven-defying. However, he was actually defeated by Lu Ming in a head-on clash. This was unforgivable. Roar! At that moment, Alcuin let out a dragon's roar. The muscles all over his body tightened and swelled up, supporting his red battle armor. His chi and blood surged to the sky, forming a true dragon that roared in the sky. Dong! He took a step forward and rushed towards Lu Ming. His huge fist was wrapped in a layer of red light and blasted towards Lu Ming. This punch was even more overbearing and shocking. Rumble! True essence rolled in Lu Ming's spiritual sea. The true essence in his body burst out with a tsunami-like sound. He used his fist to push the suppressing hell-heaven skill and punched out. Boom! The 2 fists collided for the second time, stirring up gusts of wind. Tens of thousands of pairs of eyes were fixed on them again. This time, who would gain the upper hand? Amidst the howling winds, a silhouette stepped onto the battle stage and retreated. This time, it was Ao Kuin who retreated 9 steps. Alcuin was once again pushed back, and this time he retreated even further. As for Lu Ming, his figure only swayed a little. Shock! Other than shock, there was still shock. Lu Ming had actually suppressed Ao Kuin. Within the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the eyes of Defeng and the other strongest people flashed. Although they had already heard that Lu Ming easily defeated the Heavenly Corpse Sex Guiyu, they didn't think too highly of Lu Ming. His name wasn't even in the list of 10 in the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. But now they realized that they had greatly underestimated Lu Ming's strength. With Lu Ming's battle prowess among the experts in the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier present, it would be hard to find someone stronger than Lu Ming. The Sky Prides of the Heavenly Corpse sect were also shocked. The most shocked ones were the Sky Prides of the Sky Demon Valley. They knew very well how strong Ao Kuin was. With 50% of the true dragon's bloodline concentration, if Ao Kuin grew up, he would definitely become one of the pillars of the Sky Demon Valley in the future. But now he was suppressed by Lu Ming. Ah, Lu Ming, I want you dead! Ao Kuin roared as his body grew rapidly. Finally, he turned into a 500-meter-long, crimson flood dragon. As the dragon roared, a giant claw as big as a mountain clawed at Lu Ming. The space kept shaking. Bang! Lu Ming's fist collided with the flood dragon's claw. His body trembled, and he took a few steps back. Ao Kuin, who had transformed into his original form, was stronger in all aspects. Ao Kuin's giant flood dragon body emitted a blood-red light, like the blood intent realm. This was the flood dragon's innate battle technique. He roared and pounced at Lu Ming again. Then I'll suppress you. Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly. The suppressing prison steel bloodline appeared above his head, and 2 golden lights shone brightly. Many people were shocked. They were not shocked by how powerful Lu Ming's bloodline was. Instead, they were shocked by how weak his bloodline was. Today, Sky Prides had gathered, and people with divine bloodlines had appeared frequently. Everyone was already numb. A 2nd-grade divine bloodline was nothing. Lu Ming's battle strength was too strong. Everyone thought that Lu Ming's bloodline should be a 4th-grade divine bloodline, or at least a 3rd-grade one. Who would have thought that Lu Ming's bloodline was only a 2nd-grade divine bloodline? It was unbelievable that a second-grade divine bloodline could be so powerful. Buzz! The suppressing prison, steel, bloodline vibrated. Lu Ming turned into a ray of light and merged with the suppressing prison, steel bloodline. The suppressing prison, steel bloodline exuded a terrifying pressure. It was vast and heavy, as if it could suppress everything. Bang! The suppressing prison, steel shook and clashed with the flood dragon's claw. Ao Kuin let out a long roar. His huge flood dragon body trembled like water waves, and he was forced to retreat. The suppressing prison, steel, continued to vibrate. It flew up into the sky and rapidly grew in size. In the end, it became 10,000 meters tall, like an ancient mountain, and pressed down on Ao Kuin. Ao Kuin roared as he felt the terrifying pressure. His body was filled with blood chi. With a long roar, he soared into the sky. The dragons soared in the sky, wanting to compete with the suppressing prison steel. Boom! In the end, Ao Kuin was like a worm being pressed down by the suppressing prison steel, and he was sent crashing into the battle stage. Sizzle, a strange sound rang out. It was like a toad being hit by a hammer. Following the strange sound, there was a shrill scream. The battle stage rumbled, and heaven and earth shook. Ao Kuin screamed as blood splattered everywhere. He was almost squashed alive. Blood spurted out from his huge mouth. Bang! The suppressing prison steel shook and continued to attack. The sound of bones breaking rang out. Ao Kuin vomited even more blood. The flood dragon's blood dyed the battle stage red. Ao Kuin screamed. He was already half dead, lying motionless on the battle stage. Only his eyes were still filled with shock. The suppressing prison steel shrank and turned back into Lu Ming's figure, standing on the flood dragon's head. Many people gasped in shock. He won. After Lu Ming used the bloodline fusion, he easily defeated Ao Kuin and won. A powerful demon prodigy with a 50% true dragon bloodline concentration was defeated by Lu Ming just like that. It was shocking. Many people were guessing what Lu Ming's bloodline was. Suppressing prison steel? What bloodline was that? They had never heard of such a bloodline. It was too terrifying and powerful. Once he used the bloodline fusion, he easily suppressed Ao Kuin. The divine steel became 10,000 meters tall and suppressed the flood dragon. It was like a legend. Now I'll send you on your way. Lu Ming's cold voice sounded. The infinite dragon spear appeared in his hand, and the sharp tip of the spear was aimed at Ao Kuin's forehead. No help. Ao Kuin roared. He had 50% true dragon bloodline, and he was a peerless genius of the monster race. He didn't want to die. He still had a great future. With his natural talent, it was a certainty that he would advance into the 8th rank and be comparable to the domain enlightened spirit god realm in the future. And it was even to the extent that he could charge into the exalt realm. He had another form of ambition, and that was to charge into the supreme position of the demon emperor and become an expert in the imperial Tao and reign supreme over the world. Chapter 836. This time he came to Nine Dragons City to train himself and see if he could obtain any opportunities. He wasn't here to throw his life away. He had never expected to be in such a situation. He was terrified. Stop! A shrill cry was heard, spreading hundreds of miles away. The golden-robed young man in Sky Monster Valley spoke. Lu Ming, right? I advise you to stop. You win this battle, but you can't kill Alcuin. The golden-robed young man's eyes seemed to be golden. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back, looking down at Lu Ming. He exuded a faint majesty, like an emperor looking down on his subjects. This young man was not to be underestimated. Even Shiremo and Di Feng were very polite to him. The demon clan in Sky Monster Valley was unfathomable, and the talents of the younger generation were also very frightening. This was because the demon clan in Sky Monster Valley was not on the list of top 1,000 talents. No one knew how many powerful descendants there were in Sky Monster Valley and how strong their bloodline was. This golden-robed young man was the same. He gave off an unfathomable feeling. Ordinary people would be more or less afraid of him. But Lu Ming did not buy it. He glanced at the golden-robed young man and said, "I can't kill him? Ridiculous. Just now, Alcuin and I agreed to a life-and-death duel. In a life-and-death duel, one side must die. The loser will die. Don't you understand this?" The golden-robed young man's eyes shone brighter, and his body emitted a faint golden light. He said coldly, "I advise you to let Alcuin go. He is a rare talent of the Demon Clan and the son of a big shot in the Flood Dragon Clan. If you kill him, even if you hide in Nine Dragon City, with your talent, you will definitely participate in the Battle of Providence. Then, in the Battle of Providence, you will definitely die if you meet someone from the Demon Clan." This was a blatant threat. In the Heavenly Demon race, there were many geniuses, and they weren't any weaker than the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. In this generation, there were even more geniuses. There were all kinds of descendants with a high concentration of bloodline. If they were to target someone in the battle of fate, everyone would be wary. Hee, after losing, you use your backer to threaten me. What a joke! Lu Ming's indifferent voice drifted out as he continued, "I just want to ask, if I lose this battle, will Alcuin show mercy?" Heavenly Monster tribe quieted down. The demonic beast race had always been tyrannical. If Lu Ming was defeated, how could Alcuin spare Lu Ming? Your identities are different. After a moment of silence, the golden-robed young man spoke. "Bullshit!" Lu Ming only replied with a single word. Boom! His aura erupted as he raised the infinite dragon spear high into the air and viciously stabbed it towards A.O. Kuin's forehead. "No!" Alcuin roared, his huge body trying to struggle. Puff! In the next moment, the infinity dragon spear pierced through Alcuin's forehead. The entire infinity dragon spear went in, and the powerful spear light pierced through Alcuin's huge head. The spear pierced through Alcuin's head. Alcuin roared, and his eyes flashed with unwillingness. His huge dragon body struggled for a while and then stopped moving. Alcuin was dead. Damn it! You're courting death. In the Heavenly Monster Valley, there were several angry roars. Whoosh! Whoosh! 3 figures flashed and appeared around Lu Ming. Their violent aura shrouded Lu Ming. Peak of the 7th tier of the Spirit Sea tier. These 3 figures were all demon race prodigies, equivalent to the 7th tier of the Spirit Sea tier. Extremely powerful. In the sky, the golden-robed young man did not move, but the murderous intent on his body was extremely dense and undisguised. The people of the Heavenly Corpse sect looked on coldly with anticipation in their eyes. They hoped that more of the geniuses of the Heavenly Monster Valley and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace would die. In that case, it would definitely be beneficial for the Heavenly Corpse sect. Brother Prime, this is too much. Di Feng frowned and said, Lu Ming was a genius of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, after all. He could not sit back and do nothing. That's right, a battle of life and death. Lu Ming killing Alcuin is normal. What do you mean by sending out a few geniuses of the 7th level of the spiritual sea realm? Do you think that there is no one in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? Brothers, let's go. Fatty took the opportunity to shout, wanting to encourage the others to help Lu Ming. Fatty, you are right. Lu Ming is in the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. If you are capable, send out a 6th level spiritual sea realm expert to fight him. Xia Nianqing echoed Fatty's words. That's right. If you are capable, fight him at the same level. Wan Tingting and the others chimed in. It's okay. Lu Ming waved his hand, and Fatty and the others quieted down. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with battle intent. He glanced at the 3 of them and said, If you want to fight, then let's fight. So what if you are 1 level higher? His voice rumbled and spread throughout the place. filled with heroic spirit. If Aokuin dared to fight an expert one level higher, how could Lu Ming not dare to do so? Was it too little for Lu Ming to fight above his level? Even if the other party was an extremely powerful genius. So what? Fine, you are courting death. Don't move, I will kill him. A blue-robed youth stepped out, with traces of lightning in his eyes. Wang, the prison-suppressing steel bloodline reappeared, and the battle intent in Lu Ming's eyes explained everything. Die. The blue-robed youth turned into a large bird, spreading its wings over 30 meters wide. His entire body was filled with dense lightning. This is a lightning bird possessing the bloodline of the divine beast Thunderbird. This lightning bird already possesses 30% concentration of bloodline power. Exclamations came from all around. Although this lightning bird's bloodline concentration was inferior to Aokuin's, its cultivation reached the peak of the 7th level spiritual sea realm, and its battle prowess was much stronger than Aokuin's. The lightning bird's speed was shockingly fast, like a bolt of lightning flashing past. Endless lightning spread towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming used bloodline fusion and turned into the prison-suppressing steel, colliding with the lightning bird. Boom! The lightning bird was sent flying, retreating far away. However, the prison-suppressing steel also trembled, slightly this time. Swish! Then the prison-suppressing steel enlarged rapidly, continuing to suppress the lightning bird. In the process, a terrifying devouring power burst out from the prison-suppressing steel, covering the lightning bird's cage. Ah, what's going on? The lightning bird exclaimed. He felt that the blood in his body was boiling, and under the influence of the devouring power, his strength was greatly weakened. Pum! The prison-suppressing steel smashed heavily on the lightning bird. The lightning on his body was dispersed, and he spat out a mouthful of blood filled with lightning. His huge body fell down and smashed into the fighting ring. Everyone was once again dumbfounded. The lightning bird that reached the peak of the 7th level spiritual sea realm was defeated. It was a clean defeat in just a few moves. 2 huge demonic beasts lay on the huge fighting ring. The lightning bird chirped and transformed into its human form. It retreated hurriedly, looking at Lu Ming in horror. The prison-suppressing steel shrunk and turned into Lu Ming's appearance. Next, who will fight me? Chapter 837. The 2 prodigies of the demon race had ugly expressions on their faces. Their combat strength was only on par with the lightning bird. Even the lightning bird had been defeated, so what could they do? The golden-robed youth in the sky had an ugly expression on his face. On the other hand, Fatty and the others cheered. Haha, it's really lively here today. At this moment, a faint voice came from the sky far away. The voice clearly came from afar, but it sounded like it was right beside everyone's ears. Xian Yinqing's expression changed drastically when he heard the voice. Disbelief filled his eyes. Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. There was a total of 5 people walking over in the sky. Among the 5, there were 3 youths. There were 2 men and 1 woman. Among the 3 youths, a young man in a purple gold robe was obviously the leader. The other man and woman stood behind the young man in the purple gold robe. Beside the young man in the purple gold robe, there were 2 old men. The 2 old men gave off the feeling that they were ordinary people. They were like 2 ordinary old men who didn't know martial arts. There was no aura coming from their bodies. They were naturally not ordinary people. It was just that their cultivation was too high, so they gave off an illusion. The 2 old men chatted and laughed as they looked down. One of the old men seemed to be introducing something to the other old man. That seems to be the Black Wind Venerable. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, What? The Black Wind Venerable? The Black Wind Venerable of the Imperial Sky Guard? That's him. I've seen him once. It's really the Black Wind Venerable. As soon as this was said, it caused even more exclamations. Countless gazes were cast toward one of the black-robed old men. And venerable. It's actually invenerable. And venerable was a title for a spiritual god realm expert. In other words, this black-robed old man was a peerless spiritual god realm expert. In the divine wilderness continent, martial emperors were the strongest. Martial emperors could dominate the world. On the other hand, the domain enlightened spirit god realm was the realm that was closest to the martial monarch realm. Usually, it was rare to see such a person. However, one had appeared at this moment. Then, who were the others? They actually needed an venerable to accompany them. The arrival of the Black Wind Venerable eased the tense atmosphere on the battle stage. Greetings to the Black Wind Venerable. The many sky prides of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace stood up and paid their respects. There's no need to be so courteous. There's a distinguished guest here today. I heard that an exchange meeting is being held here. So I brought him here to take a look. Black Wind Venerable said with a smile. Everyone was shocked. Honored guest? Who could be called a distinguished guest by Black Wind Venerable? The geniuses of the Heavenly Corpse Sect and the Sky Demon Valley, the four overlords of the Eastern Wilderness, were all here. Naturally, they couldn't be from those two forces. Talisman Puppet Sect? Impossible. The Talisman Puppet Sect has declined now, and it utterly doesn't have the qualifications to be addressed as an honored guest by Exalt Darkwind. Other than these three forces, who else in the Eastern Wilderness was qualified to be called a guest by the Black Wind Venerable? They are from the Central Continent. Black Wind Venerable said with a smile. What? Everyone was shocked, including the geniuses of the Heavenly Corpse Sect and the Sky Demon Valley. The Divine Wilderness was divided into 5 huge regions: Central Continent, Eastern Wilderness, Southern Underworld, Western Desert, and Northern Plains. Since ancient times, the Central Continent had been the most prosperous and powerful among the 5 major regions. The Central Continent had a vast territory and was full of outstanding people. It had always been filled with geniuses and experts. It was the top of the 5 major regions. These people were actually from the Central Continent. These people are from the Central Continent Ancient Saint Dynasty. This is a prince from the Ancient Saint Dynasty. The Black Wind Venerable threw out a bombshell. The crowd was in an uproar. Those who knew the distribution of the forces in the Central Continent were even more shocked. The Central Continent was different from the Eastern Wilderness. The 4 overlords ruled the region. The ancient Saint Dynasty of the Central Continent had been passed down for countless years. It had ruled over the entire Central Continent, and the entire Central Continent was under its control. It was said that the Heavenly Secret Chamber of Commerce had been established by the ancient Saint Dynasty of the Central Continent. Although some people had heard that the situation in the Central Continent had changed and the imperial family had weakened, the ancient Saint Dynasty was still the most powerful force. The young man in the purple and gold robe was a prince from the ancient Saint Dynasty of the Central Continent. No wonder the Black Wind Venerable addressed him as an honored guest. In the arena, Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Liao Tsang had once said that Xian Yinqing was from the Central Continent. However, when Lu Ming asked later, Xian Yinqing did not elaborate. The young man in the purple robe stepped forward and cupped his fists. I am Xie Zhen. I heard that the Eastern Wilderness geniuses were gathered here today, so I came to take a look. I hope I didn't disturb you. Your Highness is too polite. I am Di Feng. Di Feng stepped forward and cupped his fists. Brother Di, nice to meet you. Xie Zhen smiled and bowed. Then Sher Mo and the young man in the golden robe from the Heavenly Monster tribe greeted Xie Zhen. The ancient Saint Dynasty of the Central Continent was not to be underestimated. They naturally wanted to build a good relationship with it. Although the Eastern Wilderness was huge and had hundreds of regions, the Eastern Wilderness was extremely vast. However, those who had reached the level of Di Feng, Sher Mo, and the young man in the golden robe had a bright future. If they reached a certain level, they would sooner or later come into contact with the top geniuses from other regions. Now that they could build a good relationship with a prince from the ancient Saint dynasty of the central continent, they would not miss it. Lu Ming, I have to go. Let's leave this place together. At that moment, Xian Yinqing's voice sounded in Lu Ming's ears. His voice was filled with anxiety. Lu Ming turned his head and saw Xian Yinqing hiding in the crowd. His eyes were filled with anxiety. What's going on? Lu Ming was stunned and sent a message to Xian Yinqing. Let's go. There's no time to explain. Xian Yinqing was in the crowd. He kept retreating as if he wanted to leave this place quietly. At that moment, Xie Jin suddenly frowned in the sky. Then his eyes lit up and he turned around. Two beams of light shot out from his eyes as he looked in Xian Yinqing's direction. Haha, little sister, why didn't you greet me when you saw me? Are you trying to leave quietly? Xie Jin laughed. In a flash, he appeared above Xian Yinqing's head. Xian Yinqing's face turned pale immediately. One of the old men, as well as the two young men behind Xie Jin, also looked at Xian Yinqing with sharp gazes. Everyone in the surroundings was taken aback, revealing a puzzled expression. Xie Jin called her little sister? Could Xie Jin's sister be here? Since when did Xie Jin's sister mingle with the crowd? Everyone followed Xie Jin's gaze and looked at Xian Yinqing. It's her. At that moment, many people's eyes lit up. It's her. The girl who has been walking with Lu Ming is Xie Jin's sister? Doesn't that mean she's the princess of the Central Continent ancient Saint dynasty? Many people were discussing in shock. Wan Tingting, Qiao Xian, Fatty, and the rest looked at Xian Yinqing in shock. Xie Yinqing has such an identity? Lu Ming was also stunned. Although he had always thought that Xian Yinqing's identity was mysterious, he did not expect her to be the princess of the Central Continent ancient Saint dynasty. Chapter 838. There were many things that he understood in an instant, but there were also many more questions. No wonder Xie Yinqing did not tell him the truth. No wonder Xian Yinqing was so talented, but he was not a disciple of any force in the Eastern Barren Territory. No wonder Liao Tsang could see through him at first glance. However, if Xian Yinqing had such a high status, why did he travel such a long distance to the Eastern Barren Territory and even to the rural corner of the Burning Sun Empire? What was the purpose of all this? Xian Yinqing looked at Xie Jin, who was in the sky. His face was pale, and there was a hint of bitterness in his expression. He said, "You are here to look for me?" Hey, you're half right. We're here because our father asked us to form an alliance with the big forces in the East Continent and bring you back. We thought we'd have to go through a lot of trouble to ask the big forces for help in the investigation. We didn't expect to meet you here. You saved us a lot of trouble. Xie Jin chuckled. I will not go back, Xie Yinqing said calmly. Xie Jin's eyes turned cold. He said, I know you will say that, but you better not reject us. Seal your cultivation and come with us. Don't make things difficult for me. Xie Jin, stop calling me your brother. You are not my brother, and you are not fit to be my brother. Go back with you and continue to be at your mercy? Become your tool and be bullied by you? Go back and tell Xie Qitian that he is not fit to be my father. I would rather die than go back. Xie Yinqing gritted his teeth and said loudly, How dare you? How dare you call His Majesty by his name? You are courting death. Do you really think you are a princess? The two young men and the old man shouted at the same time. They stared at Xie Yinqing with unfriendly eyes. Many people around them looked at the situation. Something is not right. Is Xie Yinqing really Xie Jin's sister, the princess of the Central Continent ancient Saint dynasty? Why did even a few servants dare to scold her? Xie Jin's face turned completely dark as he said coldly, You're getting bolder and bolder. You're the son of a lowly servant, and a mutant at that. If it weren't for Imperial Father's benevolence, I would have slaughtered you and fed you to the dogs. Xie Zhen, you dare to insult my mother. I will kill you sooner or later. Xian Yinqing's eyes flashed with cold killing intent. Insult your mother? Just a lowly servant. How can she have the qualifications to let this prince humiliate her? Xie Zhen said in a cold voice. You're courting death. Xian Yinqing roared, and his destructive power erupted. A beautiful arm slammed toward Xie Zhen. A cold smile appeared on Xian Yinqing's face. His body emitted a dazzling white light that was incomparably holy. He struck out with his palm, and a huge palm formed from white light completely destroyed Xian Yinqing's attack. Xian Yinqing's body trembled as she retreated, and she spurted out a mouthful of blood. Despicable mutant, how dare you resist? This time, no matter what, you have to go back. Father was too merciful in the past. This time, I will report to Father and send you to the underworld demon region. You will suffer the pain of being burned by the demon flames. Let's see if you still dare to come out and disgrace the Xie clan. Xie Zhen's eyes were cold, and there was even a hint of disgust in them. It didn't seem like he was looking at a relative, but rather like a high and mighty prince looking at a beggar. He walked out slowly, and his body emitted a pure white light, making him look even more holy. A strong pressure enveloped Xian Yinqing. Xian Yinqing retreated, and her face turned even paler. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Xian Yinqing, and a strong aura dispersed Xie Zhen's terrifying pressure. Everyone's gaze shifted. Unknowingly, Lu Ming had already appeared in front of Xian Yinqing. Xie Zhen's face darkened, and he looked at Lu Ming and said, "Brat, who do you think you are? How dare you stop me? Get out of my way." Lu Ming's posture was ramrod straight, as though he was sitting on a mountain. He stood there, emitting a powerful aura. There was a glint in his eyes as he looked directly at Xie Zhen. "I don't care who you are or whether you are Xiaoqing's relative. As long as you dare to hurt her, you are my enemy. Now, since Xiaoqing is unwilling to go with you, then get out of my way." Lu Ming's voice wasn't loud, but it was loud and clear, especially the last sentence, "Then get out of my way." It made everyone's heart beat violently. Lu Ming dared to ask Xie Zhen to get out of my way, to ask a prince of the Central Continent ancient Saint Dynasty to get out of my way? How bold of him! Xie Zhen was also slightly taken aback. Only after a while did he react. His eyes were filled with astonishing killing intent, as if he was a high and mighty emperor looking down on his subjects. A cold and indifferent voice sounded out, "Lowly ant, you actually dare to speak to me in such a manner. When you say such words, no one in this world will be able to save you. Today, I will chop you into 8 pieces and feed them to the dogs." Bang! Xie Zhen's body emitted a blinding white light, like a white sun. A battle sword formed by the white light tore through the sky and slashed at Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and executed the heavenly art of suppressing hell, and lashed out with his palm. The heavens and earth trembled violently, and the blinding white light scattered in all directions, causing the others to close their eyes. As the white light dissipated, Lu Ming's body shuddered slightly, and he took 3 steps back. Xie Zhen's eyes flickered coldly, as if he was surprised that Lu Ming was able to resist his attack. "Lu Ming, leave quickly. This has nothing to do with you." Xian Yinqing, who was behind Lu Ming, shouted anxiously. Lu Ming turned around and smiled at Xian Yinqing, saying, "What nonsense are you saying? Your matter is my matter." Xian Yinqing's body shuddered, and there seemed to be tears in her eyes. She bit her red lips and looked at Lu Ming in a daze. For a moment, she seemed to be in a daze, unable to say a word. Lu Ming smiled and faced Xie Zhen again. "So you have a man outside. Kid, your talent is not bad. It seems like you are a genius of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. However, no matter which faction you are from, you will die today." After Xiezhen spoke, he turned to Difeng and said, "Brother Di, I want to kill this person today. You won't interfere, right?" Difeng's eyes flickered as he glanced at Lu Ming and said, "I am not familiar with this person. He is not a core member of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. I will leave him to the prince." "Haha, that's great. Thank you, Brother Di." Xiezhen burst out laughing. "Nian Chao, who do you think you are? Why should my brother be punished by you?" The fatty was not happy. With a flicker, he came to Lu Ming's side. Wan Tingting and Xiao Xian also came to Lu Ming's side. Wang Haoxian's eyes flickered. In the end, he clenched his teeth and came to Lu Ming's side. "This has nothing to do with you. Leave this place first," Lu Ming said to the fatty and the rest. This matter was related to the Middle Continent Ancient Sacred Dynasty. Lu Ming did not want to implicate the fatty and the rest. "Nian Chao, Lu Ming, what is the meaning of this? You don't treat me as a friend? Or do you think my cultivation is too weak to help?" Chapter 839. Wan Tingting and Xiao Xian's eyes were firm. Although their cultivation was low, they chose to advance and retreat with Lu Ming. Looking at the fatty, Wan Tingting, and the others, Lu Ming felt warmth in his heart. Xie Nianqing was the same. She had always been eccentric, but her eyes were a little red. "Good, good, a bunch of lowly ants, how dare you stop me? Today I'll kill all of you." Xiezhen's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. "Eighth Prince, you don't need to kill them. Leave it to us." With a flash, the man and woman who came with Xiezhen appeared beside Xiezhen, and the woman said, "All right, you guys do it, but I've changed my mind. Don't kill them, but cripple their cultivation first. I'll bring them back to the Central Continent and sell them to the barbarian tribe as slaves." Xiezhen said coldly, "Yes." The man and woman answered. Xiezhen retreated. Then 2 sword cries rang out, one black and one white. 2 sword lights shrouded Lu Ming. "Fatty, you guys back off." Lu Ming let out a long howl. He took a step forward and threw 2 consecutive palms. With 2 booming sounds, the sword lights collapsed. The man and woman's faces changed, and with a shout, their sword chi skyrocketed. Both of them were experts at the peak of the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm, and awakened the 3rd level of the divine rank bloodline. Unfortunately, they were a step too late and didn't see the power of Lu Ming's attack. They didn't know how terrifying Lu Ming was. Lu Ming was only at the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm. They thought that with the 2 of them working together, it would be more than enough to take down Lu Ming. But in the next moment, they found that they were wrong. Lu Ming's battle prowess was simply terrifying. Pung! Pung! Lu Ming stepped out, his palms striking out continuously. The black and white sword lights shattered, and the 2 retreated quickly. "Damn it, kill!" The 2 roared angrily, and 2 giant swords, one black and one white, appeared above their heads. 3 golden chakras circled around the 2 giant swords. Their bodies merged with the giant swords, and sword cries shook the sky. Shwa! Whoosh! The giant black and white sword slashed violently at Lu Ming with astonishing power. Roar! At this moment, the faint roar of a dragon could be heard from Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's aura surged, and scales appeared on his skin. A berserk aura erupted from him, making him look like a ferocious beast. Scales also appeared on Lu Ming's hands. Even Lu Ming's fingernails became very long, like dragon claws. Whoosh! Whoosh! His hands turned into claws and violently clawed at the 2 black and white giant swords. Amidst the whistling of the sword chi, Lu Ming firmly grasped the blades of the 2 giant swords. The 2 giant swords shook violently, but for a moment they could not fly out of his hands. Break! Lu Ming roared and exerted force with his claws. Bam! Bam! The black and white giant swords were crushed by Lu Ming, and they reverted back to their human forms. The two figures of a man and a woman were sent flying far away. They fell heavily on the ground and vomited large mouthfuls of blood. At this moment, countless people opened their eyes wide, looking at Lu Ming and the scales on Lu Ming's body. What's going on? What's up with Lu Ming's scales? It's like a demon. Could it be that he's not a human but a demon? That's impossible. The cultivation technique that he cultivates is the state of heaven and earth. He's definitely a human. That should be a secret technique. There are many mysterious secret techniques in heaven and earth that can allow a human to transform into a beast. There are even some that can completely transform into a beast. That's right. It should be a secret technique. What a terrifying secret technique. Lu Ming didn't use it just now. It turns out that Lu Ming still has a trump card. The supreme talents from Emperor Sky Deity Palace, Sky Corp Sect, and Sky Demon Valley opened their eyes wide. It turned out that Lu Ming hadn't used his full strength in the previous battle against the supreme talent from Sky Demon Valley. How strong was Lu Ming, a supreme talent who had awakened a level 2 divine grade bloodline exactly? Xie Zhen's eyes turned even colder. He glanced at the man and woman and scolded. What a bunch of trash! I have to deal with them personally. Having said that, Xie Zhen took another step forward, slowly walking towards Lu Ming. With every step he took, the aura on his body grew stronger. In the distance, the Black Wind, Reverend, and the old man from the Central Region Ancient Saint Dynasty watched quietly. They didn't make a sound, nor did they make a move to stop Xie Zhen. Lu Ming, be careful. He has awakened a level 5 divine grade bloodline. Xian Yinqing reminded Xie Zhen softly. Bitch, so what if I remind you? Xie Zhen scolded coldly. A burly man in golden armor appeared above his head. This burly man in golden armor was 100 meters tall, like a deity. He held a golden spear in his hand. There were 5 golden chakras around the burly man in golden armor, which were extremely dazzling. Level 5 divine grade bloodline. Kill. The burly man in golden armor held the long spear in his hand and smashed it down towards Lu Ming from above. Before the long spear arrived, the terrifying pressure was completely unleashed. Xie Zhen's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 7th level of the spiritual sea realm. With such cultivation, he had fused with a level 5 divine grade bloodline. It was too powerful and terrifying. One could imagine how terrifying Ao Kuin's battle strength was when he was only at the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. Xie Zhen would definitely not be weaker than Ao Kuin in a battle of the same level. It could be seen how terrifying his battle strength was. Roar! At this moment, another dragon roar sounded from Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming had also unleashed the second dragon force. The 2 dragon forces exploded together, and the power was multiplied. Pung! Lu Ming stomped his foot and soared into the sky. He used the suppressing Hell Heaven skill and punched the huge golden spear. Dang! The terrifying vibration formed a sound wave that spread out like a storm. Some of the weaker cultivators were shocked, and their eardrums were almost shattered. They all used their martial arts to resist. Qiao Xian's body trembled, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. The fatty on the side quickly supported Qiao Xian, and his true yuan spread out to help Qiao Xian block the terrifying sound wave. In the sky, the huge spear vibrated and buzzed. The burly man in golden armor's huge body actually trembled and took a step back. Boom! This step in the air caused the space to ripple like water. The air was compressed into liquid and blasted on the battle stage below, causing it to shake violently. And Lu Ming's body only took a step back. Damn it, lowly anti! Xie Zhen roared angrily after using bloodline fusion and was actually pushed back by Lu Ming's punch. Fist of the suppressing devil! The burly man in golden armor roared. The spear in his hand disappeared, and his huge fist punched towards Lu Ming. Wang. The suppressing hell steel appeared above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming used bloodline fusion and fused his body with the steel. The moment they fused, the two dragon forces also fused with the steel, causing it to be even stronger than before. Suppressing hell heaven skill. The suppressing hell steel enlarged and suppressed the burly man in golden armor. At the same time, the burly man in golden armor's terrifying fist light blasted towards the steel. Boom! 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 Terrifying vibrations exploded in the sky. Even from thousands of miles away, the shocking fluctuations could be heard. Dozens of explosions rang out in succession. Chapter 840. Suppress. Be it demon, deity, ghost, or monster, suppress them all. A loud voice came from the suppressing prison steel. The suppressing prison steel became 10,000 meters tall and pressed down on Xiezhen. Xiezhen, who was in the form of a man in golden armor, roared and punched out. However, in the next instant, his eyes were filled with fear. The suppressing prison steel pressed down, and the fist radiance collapsed. The suppressing prison steel went for the head of the man in golden armor. Hold on! The man in golden armor roared and dodged the attack. He used his shoulder to block the suppressing prison steel and his hands to support himself. But the suppressing prison steel could suppress everything. It was as heavy as an ancient mountain, and it was not something that the man in golden armor could withstand. Kneel down! Lu Ming's voice came from the suppressing prison steel. Boom! The man in golden armor could not withstand it, and his body fell off the fighting ring. Then his body trembled and he knelt down. Ah! The man in golden armor roared in anger. He, the prince of the Middle Continent ancient sage dynasty, was actually suppressed by Lu Ming in public and forced to kneel on the fighting ring. This was a great humiliation. I want you to die. I want you to die. Xiezhen's voice came out. Then I'll kill you now. Lu Ming's voice could be heard. The prison-suppressing monument shone and shook slightly. The burly man in golden armor roared furiously and lay down on the ground. His body shrank rapidly and turned into Xiezhen's appearance. He looked at the prison-suppressing monument above his head in horror and anger. Boom! The suppressing prison steel pressed down on Xiezhen. How dare you! At this moment, a voice came out and rumbled in the area. It was the old man who stood beside the black wind, venerable. At that moment, he let out a cold snort, extended a skinny hand, and pointed forward. A huge finger that looked like the finger of a deity appeared out of thin air and pointed at the suppressing prison steel. At this moment, Lu Ming felt an unbelievably strong force shrouding him. He was powerless in front of this force. Bam! The finger touched the suppressing prison steel. Instantly, the suppressing prison steel exploded and turned back into Lu Ming's body. He flew out like a cannonball and hit the ground 10 miles away. Boom! Lu Ming lay in the middle of the ground, coughing up mouthfuls of blood. He felt as if all the bones in his body had been broken, and he was in excruciating pain. That old man was too formidable, peerless, and unfathomable. It was very likely that he was a domain enlightened spirit god, just like Exalt Black Wind. Lu Ming! Xian Yinqing let out a delicate cry and charged toward Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, she appeared beside Lu Ming and helped Lu Ming up. Tears began to fall from her eyes. Lu Ming, are you okay? Xian Yinqing supported Lu Ming and continuously poured his true essence into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. He smiled and said, "Idiot, why are you crying? I'm fine." Lu Ming. At this moment, Fatty and the others charged over as well. Damn it. A dignified Exalt Realm expert actually made a move against you. If worst comes to worst, I'll get that old bastard of mine to come over and slap him to death. Fatty roared furiously. Fatty, don't interfere in this matter. Quickly leave this place, said Lu Ming. Their opponents were too strong. They had an Exalt realm expert, and their current cultivations were no different than ants in the eyes of an Exalt realm expert. If they resisted, then all of them would die. Lu Ming absolutely didn't want to implicate Fatty and the others. Lu Ming, I'll go back with them. Recuperate properly and stop fighting. Xian Yinqing's tears flowed incessantly as she spoke. No, little Qing, I can sense that you'll definitely suffer if you go back. Even if I have to fight with my life on the line, I don't want you to go back and suffer. Lu Ming struggled with the intention of getting up. Xie Zhan and the others didn't treat Xian Yinqing like a family member at all. They treated him like an enemy or even a servant. Even a few servants dared to scold Xian Yinqing. It was obvious that Xian Yinqing wouldn't have a good time when he went back. Lu Ming wouldn't stop them if they were normal family members. However, it was obvious that they weren't normal family members. Although Lu Ming didn't know the inside story, Xian Yinqing's words of "I'd rather die than go back" explained everything. He would rather die than return. In Xian Yinqing's heart, returning was worse than death. Swoosh! The old man took a step forward and appeared above Lu Ming and the others. Kill them. I want all of them dead. Xie Zhen screamed hysterically. He was a lofty prince of the Eastern Continent's ancient Saint dynasty, yet he'd actually been suppressed by Lu Ming and forced to kneel on the spot. How humiliating was that? He was filled with hatred. The old man frowned slightly, and then he looked at Xian Yinqing and said, 16th Princess, please come back with me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. As an Exalt at the domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm, it was truly embarrassing for the old man to make a move against a few juniors. So, he hadn't used much strength against Lu Ming at all, and he'd only stopped Lu Ming from killing Xie Zhen. If he'd really used some strength, then Lu Ming would have died even if he had 10 lives. The gap between the Sea of Soul Realm and the domain Enlightened Spirit God Realm was too huge. All right, Exalt Guardian, I'll go back with you, but you have to let Lu Ming and the others go. Xie Yinqing spoke. No, that bastard must die. Xie Zhen stared at Lu Ming with killing intent as he shouted, If you want to kill him, then I'd rather die than return. At most, you can bring my corpse back. With a move of his hand, a short sword appeared in Xian Yinqing's hand, and he pressed it against his chest with a resolute expression. Lil Qing, don't. Lu Ming was shocked and shouted. Miss Yinqing. Fatty and the others were shocked as well. Bitch, how dare you threaten me? Xie Zhen roared. The Exalt Guardian frowned even more. No matter what, I'm still Xie Qitian's daughter. If you bring my corpse back, I believe Xie Qitian won't be happy. Xie Yinqing's gaze was firm as he stared at the old man and Xie Zhen in the air. Xie Zhen's face stiffened. He wasn't very outstanding among the princes. If he really brought Xian Yinqing's corpse back, then his position in his father's heart would probably be slightly affected. Even if it was just a little bit, it was still a big deal to him. The Exalt Guardian pondered for a moment and said, All right, I promise you. It doesn't matter whether you kill them or not. Thank you. Then, Xian Yinqing's gaze turned to Xie Zhen. Xie Zhen gritted his teeth and finally said, All right, I also promise to let that bastard go. But you have to promise to seal your cultivation and go back with us obediently. All right, I'll do as I say. After Xian Yinqing finished speaking, he looked at Lu Ming with reluctance in his eyes. Fool, I'm leaving. Xian Yinqing smiled with a trace of sadness, as beautiful as a summer flower. Lil Qing, Lu Ming exclaimed softly and clenched his fists. In the end, he was still powerless to keep Xian Yinqing and needed Xie Yinqing to save his life. At this moment, he hated his own powerlessness and his lack of strength. If he had the strength to dominate the world, how could Xie Zhen and the others take Xie Yinqing away? How could he let Xian Yinqing do something that she didn't want to do? Chapter 841. He seemed to have made rapid progress recently, competing with the Eastern wilderness geniuses, but that was only among the younger generation. Moreover, even among the younger generation, he might not be a match for Foam, Emo, and the others. Moreover, there were still the top 100 geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents ahead of him. This was only among the younger generation. Compared to the ancient families, or even the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and the Middle Continent Ancient Saint Dynasty, he was still far behind. In the face of such forces, he seemed so powerless. Power, power. Lu Ming kept growling in his heart. 16th Princess, I've already agreed. Come with me now, the guardian said. Xie Nianqing's body trembled. She suddenly bent down and pressed her red lips on Lu Ming's. At this moment, their lips were touching, as if they had become one. Bitch! Xie Zhen's eyes flashed coldly as he growled. But at this moment, no one paid attention to Xie Zhen. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing. After a long while, their lips parted. 2 drops of tears fell on Lu Ming's face. Lu Ming, I'll wait for you. No matter how much pain I suffer, I won't die. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for the day you rule the world. When you rule the world, we'll hold hands and never be separated. Her voice echoed in Lu Ming's ears. Xie Nianqing had already floated away and landed beside the guardian. Shaoqing! Lu Ming felt as if a large stone was stuck in his chest, making it difficult for him to breathe. Miss Nianqing! Wan Tingting and Qiao Xian's eyes glistened with tears. Wang Haoxian also looked at Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing with a complicated expression. Ah, damn it, I'm going to call that old bastard here. The fat man growled, his fat body trembling. Rule the world? What a joke! How dare an ant try to defy the heavens? What a dream! Guardian, let's go. Xie Zhen sneered. He came to the guardian and said, Bitch, alien, this time when we go back, I'll make you go to the 9th underworld. Just you wait. The protector waved his hand and took Xie Nianqing, Xie Zhen, the man and the woman. They turned into a ray of light and disappeared. Shaoqing! Lu Ming looked in the direction where Xie Nianqing had left. Let's leave, the fat man said. That was because there were people from the heavenly monster valley looking at them with unfriendly gazes. Lu Ming's combat power was too terrifying. Even Xie Zhen, the prince of the Middle Continent Ancient Saint Dynasty, who had awakened a 5th-level divine bloodline and whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th level of the Spirit Sea realm, was suppressed by Lu Ming. He was too powerful. Now that Lu Ming was seriously injured, they had other thoughts. Let's go! The fat man wrapped Lu Ming with his true origin and left in a flash. Wan Tingting and the rest followed behind. The eyes of the people from the Sky Demon Valley flashed, but they did not chase after them. After all, this was the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, not the Sky Demon Valley. If they chased after the geniuses of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace openly, would the people of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace allow it? Otherwise, they would lose all their face. What an interesting guy. The Black Wind Venerable smiled and said, You guys continue the competition. I'm leaving. A black wind blew past, and the Black Wind Venerable disappeared. Now that Aokuin is dead and Lu Ming has retreated with serious injuries, why don't we start the competition from the 6th level of the Spiritual Sea realm? Foam looked in the direction where Lu Ming and the rest left, then looked at Emo and the golden-robed youth. I have no objections, Emo said. Okay. The golden-robed youth could only nod. The competition continued, but Lu Ming and the rest had nothing to do. 1,000,000 miles away, in a hidden valley, Lu Ming sat cross-legged, trying his best to heal his injuries. Previously, he was hit by the Honorable Guardian of the Middle Continent Ancient Saint Dynasty. Although the Honorable Guardian did not use much strength, he was still severely injured, and his bones were broken into a few hundred pieces. Fortunately, it was only a physical injury, and his internal organs were only slightly injured. With Lu Ming's current physical strength and cultivation, he could recover quickly. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Lu Ming's injuries were healed, and he was in peak condition. Wang Haoxian's figure flickered, and she appeared beside Lu Ming. "How's the investigation?" Lu Ming opened his eyes and looked at Wang Haoxian. 2 days ago, Lu Ming asked Wang Haoxian to investigate where Xie Zhen and the rest were, and whether they were still in Nine Dragon City. Previously, Xie Zhen had said that they came to Eastern Wilderness to form an alliance with a few major forces. Forming an alliance was a big deal, and Lu Ming guessed that Xie Zhen and the rest would not leave so soon. Therefore, he sent Wang Haoxian to investigate. The people from Middle Continent are still there, and they are staying in the Ocean Wave Ancient Garden in another dragon vein. Wang Haoxian told him the truth. Ocean Wave Ancient Garden? I know. Lu Ming nodded and closed his eyes again. Not far away, Fatty, Wan Tingting, and Xiao Xian were discussing something. Why do you think Lu Ming sent Wang Haoxian to find out where the people from Middle Continent are staying? Is he trying to save Miss Nianqing? With Lu Ming's cultivation, he will definitely die if he goes there. Wan Tingting whispered, "That's right. They have honorables, and he will definitely die if he goes there. We still have to keep an eye on Lu Ming, and don't let him do anything rash." Fatty nodded. Another day passed. Lu Ming sat still. At this moment, the image of Xie Nianqing kept flashing in his mind. Back then, when they met for the first time in the ancestral remains of the Dongyi tribe in the Burning Sun Empire, they fought fiercely in the beginning. At that time, Xie Nianqing suffered a great loss. Later on, the two of them met again in the Scorching Sun Imperial capital. After that, the two of them experienced a lot together. The words, "I will trample you under my feet," echoed in Lu Ming's ears from time to time. After going through so much together, Xie Nianqing's image had been deeply engraved in his heart. Similarly, his image was deeply engraved in Xie Nianqing's heart, and it was difficult to erase it. When you rule the world, you and I will hold hands and never be separated. Xie Nianqing's words were still ringing in his ears. However, he did not know how many years it would take to rule the world. Moreover, Martial Emperor Di was standing in front of Lu Ming, blocking him. He didn't know if he could defeat Emperor Di. If he failed, wouldn't Xie Nianqing have to stay in the ancient empire of the Central Continent for the rest of her life? Wouldn't she stay in that place where she suffered? Xiao Qing, when you suddenly disappeared for 2 years, were you also brought back to the Middle Continent? But then you ran out again. Since you don't want to go back to that home, and that home will make you suffer, then I won't let you go. It's too long to wait for me to rule the world. I will seize every moment. Suddenly, Lu Ming opened his eyes. In his eyes, there seemed to be 2 rays of spear light piercing through the air and into the clouds. With a flash, Fatty and the others appeared beside Lu Ming. "Lu Ming, have you recovered?" Fatty asked. "Yes." Lu Ming nodded, and then said, "You guys leave Nine Dragons City first. I have something to do." Fatty's face changed, and he said, "Lu Ming, are you going to save Miss Nianqing?" "No, you will die if you go like this." Chapter 842. Lu Ming let out a smile and said, "Don't worry, I have my ways. I won't risk my life." "What ways?" "Lu Ming, you don't have to lie to us. If you have a way to deal with the Martial Highness, we'll go together." The Fatty yelled. "Fatty, why do you have to do this?" Lu Ming let out a sigh. Suddenly, his figure took a few steps backward. Buzz! Lines of runes appeared on the ground, forming a huge formation, trapping the Fatty and his crew within it. Lu Ming already knew that the Fatty and his crew would not leave. Thus he had secretly carved the runes. The formation appeared like a cage, trapping the Fatty, Wang Haoxian, Wan Tingting, and Xiao Xian within it. Lu Ming, what are you doing? You're despicable, trapping us with a formation. Let us out at once. I'll challenge you to a duel. The fatty yelled. Wan Tingting and the others blurted out in panic too. Lu Ming let out a smile as his heart was filled with warmth. He was willing to take the risk, but he would not let the fatty and his crew take the risk too. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Lu Ming let out a smile before he glanced at Wang Haoxian and said, I've lied to you before. If anything happens to me, the soul-splitting formation will dissolve on its own. With that, Lu Ming turned around and stepped into the air. Lu Ming. Wang Haoxian glanced in the direction Lu Ming had left with a complicated expression. Let's do it. Let's break the formation. The fatty let out a furious roar as he unleashed his full strength to break the formation. Lu Ming traveled rapidly in the air, covering 1,000 li in the blink of an eye. He did not head to the Ocean Billow Ancient Garden, but to the Dragon Vein. He soon covered a distance of 1,000,000 li. Lu Ming returned to the location of the previous gathering. The gathering had already come to an end. The crowd had already dispersed, leaving only a few people observing the godly Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Lu Ming didn't stop as he strode towards the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. When he was within 10,000 meters, the Nine-Dragon Cauldron emitted a massive pressure. However, it didn't stop Lu Ming's footsteps at all. Step by step, he walked steadily towards the Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Soon, he was within 1,000 meters of the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. That looks like Lu Ming. It's really him. It seems like his injuries have already healed. What is he doing here? I don't know. Some people recognized Lu Ming and looked at him curiously. After the previous battle, Lu Ming's name had spread throughout Nine Dragon City. Many people believed that in time, Lu Ming would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the top 100 talents on the list of top 1,000 talents. However, there were also people who believed that Lu Ming's bloodline was only at the second level of the divine level. His potential was limited, and his future achievements could not compare to those of the top 100 prodigies. Lu Ming had no idea what was going on, nor did he care to find out. Step by step, he approached the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Roar! Within his body, the blood of the 9 dragons roared, constantly emitting draconic roars. However, outsiders could not hear it. The closer he got to the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, the more violent the 9 dragons' bloodline became. It seemed to want to rush out of his body and pounce on the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, but Lu Ming suppressed it. He was getting closer and closer to the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. 500 meters, 300 meters, 100 meters, a layer of blood-red light spread out from Lu Ming's back. Dong! At this moment, the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron vibrated. The vibration traveled thousands of miles. An entire dragon vein seemed to shake. Not far away, the others widened their eyes. The divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron vibrated. The divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron that has remained motionless for thousands of years actually vibrated. I heard that it vibrated once a while ago. I thought it was fake, but I didn't expect it to be true. Unbelievable. Why? Why is the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron vibrating? These people exclaimed. They had never thought that it was because of Lu Ming. How could a young man make the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron vibrate? How could the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, which even martial emperors could not move, vibrate? Lu Ming's eyes were bright and persistent as he strode forward. He was getting closer and closer. Dong! The divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron vibrated again. The surrounding people were even more shocked. In the distance, there were streaks of light flying towards them. These people had rushed over because they had heard the commotion. Heavens, the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron really moved? The people who rushed over later were also shocked. At this moment, Lu Ming had already reached one of the legs of the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. The divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron had 4 legs. all of which were extremely huge. That seems to be Lu Ming. What is he doing? Some of the people who came later recognized Lu Ming. Look, he is hugging the legs of the cauldron. He is going to move the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Ridiculous. Countless geniuses have tried in history, but it was useless. How can he move it? Someone sneered. However, in the next moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. Their eyes almost popped out. Lu Ming hugged the legs of the cauldron with both hands. Of course, he could not hug it completely. He could only hug a corner. Rise! Lu Ming roared. His long hair fluttered, and he suddenly exerted force. Don't! As Lu Ming exerted force, the divine nine-dragon cauldron vibrated again. This time, the vibration was louder and more shocking than the previous 2 times. The vibration spread far and wide like a storm. The entire dragon vein trembled violently and shook violently. The divine nine-dragon cauldron is moving again, and it is even more violent. It can't be. Could it be that the divine nine-dragon cauldron is moving because of Lu Ming? Someone guessed. No way, it can't be. It must be a coincidence. Some people found it hard to accept and shook their heads, thinking that it was a coincidence. Rise! Lu Ming roared again. Don't! The divine nine-dragon cauldron moved again. The huge body of the cauldron was shaking. On the ground, there were huge rocks breaking and splashing. Oh my God, it's moving again. It's really because of Lu Ming. Unbelievable. Someone shouted, while more people looked at all of this with their mouths agape. In the sky, rainbow lights flashed and more people flew over. Divine nine-dragon cauldron, what are you waiting for? Now come and fight with me. Lu Ming roared, his voice shaking the sky. The others were shocked. Lu Ming actually wanted to fight with the cauldron? Who was he going to fight? Some people remembered the grudge between Lu Ming and the ancient empire of Middle Continent a few days ago and gasped. Could it be that Lu Ming wanted to fight with the experts of the ancient empire of Middle Continent? How bold! How bold! Divine nine-dragon cauldron, I know you have a spirit. Come and fight with me. Lu Ming continued to roar. The nine dragons' bloodline in his body roared. The voice of the nine dragons' bloodline seemed to be constantly transmitted into the divine nine-dragon cauldron. However, Lu Ming felt that there was a spirit in the divine nine-dragon cauldron that was resisting. It was unwilling to leave the ground and fight with Lu Ming. You are too weak. Suddenly, a voice was transmitted into Lu Ming's ears. It seemed to come from ancient times and was full of vicissitudes. This voice could not be heard by others except for Lu Ming. I am too weak, but in the future I will rule the world. Lu Ming roared, his battle intent invincible. Don't! You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.